everybody. Appreciate everybody being here this morning. At this time, I'd like to call this meeting to order. I would say Clerk Barger call the roll, but Clerk Barger's not here, so I'm gonna call the roll. Magistrate Combs, Magistrate Barger,
Here.
Magistrate Tudor,
Here.
Magistrate Bockin,
Present.
Judge Taylor, here. At this time, I'm gonna just open us in a word of prayer, and then we'll do the pledge, and we'll get going. If y'all will bow your heads with me. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for this wonderful day. Thank you for the relationships that we have, doing our civic duty for a community that we all love. Lord, thank you for the relationships that me and the magistrates have built for the past 4 years, and I look forward to 4 more. Lord, just let us be open-minded today. Let us help us to always educate the community in knowing the true facts of what we're up against here in this county. Lord, thank you for Glenna's leadership with the budget. Thank you for the jailer and the sheriff and their leadership in their elected positions. Man, it's a good time to be in Madison County. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Sheriff, if you will, lead us in the pledge.
Please stand and face the flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, DC.
Thank you, Sheriff. Appreciate that. Guys, really our first and only order of business today with this special meeting is our budget workshop meeting that we started having right at 4 years ago. I think this is our 4th one, and I think it's great to do this live on TV to where our community members that are interested can go back and look. I'm very excited about this because I think this is kind of the first year Glenn has done this where it compares the years out where it's in front of us. So it really gives us a good look back at where we've gone or where we've come from and sort of the direction that we're going in. Glenn and I Glenn especially worked really hard. We both worked hard on trying to cut some things the other day. The jail came up big for us yesterday. We 100% appreciate that. Everybody was a little give and take. One of the things in this budget that this reflects is increasing our classification schedule, which I feel like is 100% important for our employees on retaining them. We're struggling right now. I know Steve struggles with it, and the sheriff has struggled with it in the past. But in his budgets, we've been able to help him get his pay up to where I think it might not be 100% where he wants it, but it's been helping. It's been allowing him to recruit people to want to come to work for him as well. And so in this budget, we've been able to do that for the jail staff. We've been able to do it for the road, all of our departments across the board, the fire department. And so this budget today reflects that, which when we go to approve the budget, we'll be approving the new classification schedule as well for those increases. So I just want you to know that going into this because it maybe not necessarily going to reflect 100% in when you see that class, because it's not part of the discussion today, the classification schedule. Okay?
Okay.
All right. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Glenn. Thank you, Glenn.
I handed out, you've got a paper copy of the budget with a comparison of the 19-20, next year's budget, the 2018-19, and back to the 2017-18. We're going to start off with the general fund and the revenues, and then go into the appropriations. Just a few notes. The revenues were an increase of $410,650 for the general fund. The expenses were an increase of $469,050 for over last year. We'll start out with the first line item and go line item by line item. If there's a question or you have a comment about one of them, just stop me and we will discuss it. We're going to start out with our real property taxes. Last year was 3.3. We increased it to 3.4 with looking back at what we've been bringing in. Our tangible property tax was at 300 last year because we've only brought in 286, and that's probably all. We put it at 280 for this year. Motor vehicle property tax, we left the same at 550. Delinquent property tax, we lowered down just a little bit.
Excuse me, Glenn, real quick. The actuals, is that for just the 9 months, or is
Yes, that is just for 9 months
okay.
coming in.
Do y'all see the actuals? Y'all know what we're looking at when we see the actuals? Okay.
So the first line has your final budget, which in the 1920, the actual's always gonna be zero, cause we haven't entered that
Right.
budget. In the 1819, the actual is just what we brought in so far, and mostly that's a few of them's through April, but most of it's through March.
And some of those, remember that they are at 100%. Like, 9 months doesn't matter because, we collect all that money, like maybe
It
on real
depends.
property taxes.
Yeah, we may collect it all, we may get it quarterly, and most of the time we've gotten it, all
Yeah.
our quarters in, because they send it at the first of the quarter, so some of them
Yeah.
are collected 100%, but that's what we base it on, so
Yep.
what we brought in so far.
Sorry, Glenn, go ahead.
That's okay. Delinquent property tax, we lowered down 5,000 from 90 to 85. Fire protection left the same. Bank franchises, we get a actual paper in that tells us what those are gonna be. It's gonna be a 225, which is 25,000 up from last year. Franchise corporation tax, because of the amounts that we brought in, we brought it up to 200,000, which is still conservative. We brought in 251 this year, and that is 100%. Occupational tax, we've raised from 3.2 million to 3.4 million. With the depot going on, we're continuing to increase, and we will continue to go after, occupational tax and net profits of local
We only got 2.6 come in. last
That
year,
is
though.
just through March.
Through March, okay.
Yes, and so we get all our net profits in
All right.
April, plus we will have more occupational tax. So we should hit probably 3.4 by the end.
Or above, hopefully.
D, transfer tax, we left the same at 350. Excess fees from the clerk, we left the same at 525. Now, you'll see on the 1819, we brought in $1,562,132. That is the end of the term, that 900 and something thousand that he turned in. That's the reason it's so much for 1819.
And that just happens every 4
That just
years.
happens at the end of the term, every
So
4
you
years.
divide that by 4 then. to
Yeah.
Get that number, okay.
Excess fees from the sheriff, we left at 290. Abandoned property registrations, we left at 3,000. Board of Adjustments and Planning, we dropped from 6 down to 5,000. Plats, we left at 17,000. HVAC mechanical permits, we left at 45,000. Building permit fees, we left at 110. Electrical inspections, we left at 84. Planning and fire gates, we left at 1,000. Telecommunications tax, we left at 70,400. Solid waste hauling permits, left at 700. Federal reimbursement, we left at 50, and that is the community liaison position that passes through us, for Craig Williams. Federal grants, we don't have any at this time. State reimbursement, that is only when we get reimbursed for FEMA projects, and we leave that line item in, but we don't have anything at this time. State grants went from 196 to 230,000. That's your Hope's Wings, your litter abatement grant, dead animal grant, a few of those added up. Homeland Security grant, we always put 100,000 in there, because we're always getting some type of Homeland Security grant. So it's a wash. We have 100,000 coming in, 100,000 going out. Election expense reimbursement, we dropped it from 35 down to 18,000. They've lowered how much we get reimbursed per precinct. Board of Assessment and Appeals, we left at 1,000.
And the state does that, right?
Yes, the state decides that.
So, these are some of those, at some point, you gotta think there's some of those unfunded mandates that get passed down.
Mm-hmm.
When they continue to lower, these things help us in the all-around budget,
And that will mean less money that Kenny will be able to,
No, because we pay for elections.
or we pay for election.
The fiscal court's responsibility is to pay for the elections.
So we get all the election bills.
Yep.
Legal process tax, we left at 500. The ALC space rental is left at 767,219. Firefighters incentive pay actually went from 112 to 145,163. And I did not have the reimbursement for the retirement in there last year, so I added that in to increase that in. We actually did get the retirement, I just didn't have it budgeted. DES federal reimbursement, we left at 35,000. Refunds and contingency, we went from 7,500 to 10,000 based on what we had brought in. The animal control interlocal agreement, we figured up, and it's based on a contract on how much it costs to run the animal shelter. We have not received in monies from the two entities as of this year, but we are in contact with them and making sure that they are putting it in their budget for next year to give us this money. If they should not, then we'll have to take this out between first and second reading. So we're waiting to hear back from them. Fiscal court filing fees, we left at $125,000. The next few, where it says county parks, the county parks rental and deposit fees, we took that out because we're not using that line item. The greens fees, carts fees, membership dues, we used to separate this in the budget, but we decided since we have a software system out there at the golf course that separates that and you can get reports at any time, there's no need to separate it in the budget. So we've just got one line item. If you look at the very end of that, it says golf course receipts, and it's got 400,000. So instead of breaking it down between several line items in this year's budget, it'll just have a golf course receipts for 400,000. There is no impound lot fee.
And any time that y'all want to report on that, I mean, feel free to,
Gary would have it out the golf course.
yeah, or we can get it. I mean, we can have it ready for you, you know, and maybe that's something we think about doing just to, once a quarter or something, maybe, once a quarter, maybe have it here for, like a profit and loss or something for the magistrates or something. you
Yeah.
know?
And Gary, I think he comes to court every so often and gives what he's done. I don't know if
Yeah.
he's doing it quarterly or monthly. I think quarterly.
We get some, I get some emails, I'm not sure if the magistrates do or not, but I can make sure that y'all start getting them if you want them. All right, good, go ahead.
Okay, then you get down to animal shelter fees. It's just the opposite. We used to collect it under one line item, and now we break it down. And the reason we break it down for that is we've started a new receipts program to where they can, they enter it into a receipts program that's connected with my software. And so in order to do that and make sure that it gets in the right line item, we had to break down between dog adoption, cat adoption, all of that. So we've got theirs broke down where they used to bring in last year 26,000. We've just got it broke down between the different line items. So the next few line items you'll see dog adoption, cat adoption, animal turn-in fee, animal claiming fee, euthanasia fee, dog tags, microchip, and donation and sales tax. Those are all with the animal shelter. Then you'll go down to Madison County 911 IT service. We went for, Chris reevaluated all his pricing, so went from 25,000 to 27 at 618. Skip down, we don't do Berea IT. Madison County EMS IT went from 10 to 10.5. Madison County Utilities IT went from 6 to 6,300. The county clerk went from 20 to 22,000. PVA went from 7,000 to 7,350. Sheriff's office went from 15,000 to 18,030. Detention center went from 10,000 to 11,868. Software reimbursement we no longer have. Southern Madison Water IT went from, it stayed at 7,000. Madison County E911 GIS stayed at 5,000. Kirksville Water GIS lowered down from 1,000 to 500. And all these come from Chris. So Chris is the one that gives us all these lines to tell us exactly what he's going to bill out.
So that represents a 5% increase across the board, except for Southern Madison, because we really just don't do a lot for them, so there's no reason to justify an increase. Kirksville signed a contract just to time and material only, so it's basically a $500 retainer, and then anything we do for them, we would bill them hourly. There's just not enough work for them.
Do you know how many hours roughly, Chris, you worked for them last year?
Not off the top of my head, we can pull that off from the help desk, but.
That might be something to think about then, Glenn, because in that number, in fact, 500
They pay 500,
flat,
But then he would bill them if he did any work for them.
right, which you put in that revenue.
The last 2 years, we haven't done anything outside of that 500.
Oh, you haven't? Okay.
They just don't have, they have one computer.
I got you, okay. So it's,
Where they're integrated with Madison County Utilities together, and that whole office space is the same, they don't really, if I'm doing it, it's for Madison County Utilities anyway,
Yeah,
so that's why it's not there. The other thing that's in those pricing that is different from last year is that we're starting to charge per virtual desktop they use, so it's called compute time, I don't know if that's in that charge. So anybody that uses a virtual desktop, we started charging the compute time, so that post-CSEP era, there is that establishment of, they don't just get free computers. And if we just don't have, we're forking out all the money to pay for these systems. So that's built in there. The sheriff has been paying it since he came online about 4 years ago. We just started adding people in there now, making everybody pay for that. The jail has started to pay that as well. Just as, so hopefully when we get 3 years down the road, CSEP's not here, those costs are covered, and we're not stuck, had a hole in the water forever.
At one time, yeah.
everybody's used to it already.
Then we get down to pictometry. City of Berea went from 12 down to 11,126. PVAs went from 20,000 down to 8,322. City of Richmond went from 10 down to 9,657. Berea College went from 3,100 to 3,327. EKU pictometry went from 3,900 down to 3,861.
Why is there such a big drop in the
PVA.
PVAs?
PBA was paying for, so there's two different flight heights. 6 years ago, we flew really high. They got the imagery, nobody liked it. So they came back and we renegotiated with everybody saying, we want to pay more money to get better imagery. So that was 2 years ago. And now Billy got whacked with the budget cut. He doesn't have the money to pay for that. So we've gone back to a whole new flight model where those elevations have changed. And he was picking particular sectors down 52 that he wanted to see in high quality. He couldn't afford those, so he pulled those off. So that's why you see his number really go back. Now, that has all changed since Glenn and I have even talked about it. We don't held off the pictometry flight until later this year so that pictometry has got new cameras that have come out and they're going to fly the whole county at a whole new lower level at the same price. And any increase in that price, there'll be a small increase, PVA will cover. He has found the money to cover it because he's starting to see the benefit of having that imagery down close and what it does for him in assessing and having to send people out. So he's going to offset that cost based on that. But the biggest portion is because he was selecting a big corridor down 52 that we're not gonna fly like that anymore.
Okay.
But you fly late in the fall, so you can get a good picture
They
with the
usually fly
leaf-
early before the coverage, or they
Yeah.
fly
Okay,
after.
with the leaves
So,
off the
Right.
trees.
Right. But it's once a year?
we do it every two.
Every two.
So that contract was a 6-year agreement with, 2 payments every year, but it was, we basically renegotiated every 2 years to kind of decide what we wanted to do. So we'll be getting ready next year to renegotiate that with our partners.
So Chris takes the bill that we pay, because we pay the full bill, and then we bill out to all these different people to collect their portion of it. So that's the reason that each one's adjusted, because he takes that specific bill for that year and breaks it down to exactly what they get. The county clerk, then we get into the telephone. So Chris, as y'all know, does the telephone system, and he bills out to the different departments, which has been a huge savings to us over the last 5 years, or however long we've had it. It basically pays for our telephone service. So the clerk's office stayed the same, 6,400. County attorney stayed the same, 3,600. Child support stayed the same, 3,000. Driver's license, $1,560. There is no longer a court designated worker, no longer adult drug court. The sheriff's office stayed at 5,400. Detention center is at 3,000. 911 is for their cell phones, $720. CASA is $1,200 for their telephone and internet. Madison County Utilities is at $3,150. The CASA internet service is taken out because it is actually in with the telephone. Home incarceration fees is taken out because we've now moved that over to the jail, and you'll see that in the jail budget. Dead animal removal fees is at $2,000. It stayed at $2,000, and those are collected from vets' offices or stockyards, to where when they have load picked up, they pay us a $50 fee per load. Vending machines commission stayed at $500. Sales and surplus stayed at $10,000. Kentucky Real Estate Board rent stayed at $28,801.
You know what? It's the Madison Avenue building, right?
The rental
Yes.
on that building over there.
The Battlefield Ranch house out there, we have it at 0. We are not renting it at this time. Will Green Lake Marina is no longer in there. Madison County child support rent is $43,164. Stayed the same. Battlefield Farm rent is $14,100. Commonwealth Attorney rent is $32,088, and that's over on First Street, second floor. Family Court basement rent is $26,719. CASA rent is at $6,000. Recycling receipts. Recycling receipts went from 1,000 up to 10,000, and the main thing on this is now the solid waste, when they pick up certain items, big items, and certain items, they are taking what can be recycled off of there, and we're taking it to the recycling center and getting money for it. So if we're picking up metal items or whatever, we're trying to get money for it now.
Okay.
So we raised that up to 10,000. Insurance reimbursement stayed the same at 40,000. Sheriff vehicle insurance reimbursement stayed at 25,000. reimbursement from outside entities went from 35,000 to 50,000. You'll see over there in 18-19 it was 636,000. That was basically where CSEP, where we switched over to CSEP being back in its own fund and not going through the general fund. They still owed us some money after July 1st of last year, so that flowed in and made that number increase. But we're now putting it at 50,000.
Who all fills that category, basically?
It could be a range of anything. 911, if they reimburse us for insurances and stuff like that. It's just a wide variety of anything that any outside entity could reimburse us for.
Gotcha.
And we had the 636,000 last year to work with.
Because of
CSEP was
Okay.
giving us a big, they
Right.
owed us some money that it takes a time for them to get their money in. So they still owed us some money after July 1st, but that won't be coming in
Right,
anymore.
so we only got 50,000.
But if you look at the
That's
year before that, we had 77,000.
That's a drastic,
Yes.
shortcoming.
Yeah, because last year, if you look at the
Receipts,
next line item, last
Yeah.
year, we had a reimbursement from CSEP that was just for CSEP money coming in. But we did away with that last year because we were no longer gonna use that, but we had, carryover from the year before that had to be, still come back to the general fund. We don't have a vehicle lease with the sheriff anymore. The sheriff law enforcement liability insurance is at 45,000, and that is based off of our policy. That is split between the detention center and the sheriff's office because they're all deputized, so that liability, it's actually like 90-something thousand, they pay half of it.
Was that lease reimbursement, was that where we were paying?
Yeah, that's where you all were paying us.
You finally paid that right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good thing.
And then the sheriff auto insurance reimbursement, this is where they actually pay us for their portion of the cars, and I have Keiko send us a bill on exactly their cars and what the premium is. So last year it was 56,453, but this year it was only 48,894. And if we add cars on, we'll send them a bill if it increases us or whatever. Donations, we left at 7,500. Cell tower rent went from 26,000 to 33,000 because we did have an increase on our AT&T tower rent. The health self-insurance reimbursement, that is taken out now because it's in its own fund, and you'll see that at the end. Letter of credit, we have not had a letter of credit in several years, so we took that out. If we should have a letter of credit drawn, we will budget them in that money in. Interest, our investments are finally starting to draw some interest, so we changed that from 20,000 up to 75,000. Surplus from prior year, last year we had it at 5 million. This year we got it at 5.5 million. Mainly because we got the money from the clerk's office in from the end of the term, kind of give us a boost for the end of the year. Transfers to other funds. This is transfers made to the road and the jail fund. That's the only two funds that we transfer to. As you'll see, it was 2,997,222 last year. This year it's going to be 3,456,884.
Is that gonna reflect some of the increase in the schedule that we're changing?
The classification schedule.
Classification.
Yeah, I mean,
Some of it.
that has to do
Okay.
with it.
Some of it has to do with it. I'll give you, when we get to those funds, I'll give you more reasons why of the increases.
But you can see, that, that's just how we guess in the budget, Of
Right,
course,
it's
our
an estimate.
each team, the jail and, the road department, they can do their due diligence to continue to try to save and to stay under those line items. And we could, but I'd be shocked are we gonna hit that? I mean, just in the next month?
No,
So
we
we'll be under
always
what we
budget
estimate.
the worst
Yeah.
case scenario.
Right.
And we will not have to transfer as much as we budgeted last year.
Yeah.
So, I'd say we might come in at more like 22,500,000 or 600,000, but we won't hit that 2.9.
Yeah.
That is all the revenues for the general fund. Is there any questions about any of these you'd like to discuss?
Glad, like you, glad to see our interest jump up. That's great.
Yeah.
Yes, our the judge and I sat down with our investor and worked some plans out like a year or so ago. And they're really now starting to develop and start earning some money.
Yeah, there for a while, we wondered whether we made the right decision or not.
Yeah.
You know?
It takes time to get them, we had to break out our CDs and to where they, some hit 3 years, some hit 5
5
years, some
years.
hit 7 years, you know, to get a good plan.
So folks know that was a $55,000 projected increase. That's
Mhm.
good. That's real good.
Yep.
Okay, and now we'll get into the appropriations. The first line item is our county judge executive, which is set by the state. Our county judge executive, the sheriff, the clerk, the jailer, those salaries are all set by the state based on the population and how many years of service they have been into office. So that is at $121,362. The next line item is our county judge executive office staff. And with Francett's retirement and everything, it's dropped down from 144 down to 118,533. The next is a training incentive, which is set by VLG. It's at $4,216. Judge's office fuel, we left at 500. Even though we went over this year, we were taking the custodial fuel out of that line item also, and we created them their own line item. So we left it at 500. We do not no longer have an office supplies or printed materials because we have all our office supplies combined as third floor office supplies. Reimbursements, we left at 500. Training and travel, we left at 2,500. Vehicle repairs, we left at 500. We do not have an office equipment. Next is county attorney salary, and it's based off the state CPI.
Right.
So the county attorney also gets their raise in January when the elected official, not elected officials, but the judge, the sheriff, the jailer, and the clerk all get their raises in January. So does the county attorney, and it's based on the CPI, which is 1.9% this year. So it's at $50,364. We took the home incarceration out, the program and the administrator, and that will be in the jail budget.
So that's operated through jail now instead of separate
Yes. Yes.
line.
And the next line item used to be called Administrator of Alternative Sentencing Program. We've now changed it to Administrative Diversion Program, and it has $35,000 in it. And this is what we discussed with our new county attorney in court. Then we also have the next line item is our Assistant County Attorney, which is set at $40,000. We did away with the secretary. The Rocket Docket Program we added in at $50,000. We have already paid that in this year, but we did not have it budgeted because it came at the end of the year. Secretary to court, this is to the county clerk. It's at state at $1,200.
We're gonna have to dock him some, cause he's not here
Not
today.
here today.
Yeah.
Fees paid certifying deeds to PVA is $500. Delinquent tax advertising, we actually got to lower that down, as you'll see. We had it at $8,250. We only spent $54.92, so we lowered it down to $6,000. Auto and boat and tax bill preparation,
That's what we
we,
just voted on last.
yes.
Yeah.
So it came in at $13,466, and so we raised it to $13,500. The sheriff program support, last year we were at $1,504,006. This year we're at $1,559,147, and that's based off the sheriff's budget that you all approved in January. The property tax bill preparation, we did lower down $1,000 from $12,500 to $11,500 based on the expenses from this past year. Sheriff's office postage, we lowered down $100 from $11,100 to $11,000. County coroner salary is at $50,950. It was actually at $50,000 as of January 1st. But because of the budget and it was only half a year, it was, we only had to budget 46 last year. The deputy coroners went from $35,104 to $35,167. The coroner expense allowance stayed at $3,600. Autopsy attendant stayed at $3,000. Coroner fuel stayed at $2,000. Office supplies $300. Coroner supplies $4,000. Coroner training $2,000. Coroner building repairs, we did add that in just to have a little something that if he needed repairs downstairs at the JIC building, we could have a place to put those. We put it in for $500. He does not pay any water and sewer, so we took that out. The electric bill stayed at $6,000. Vehicle repairs stayed at $1,000. Coroner equipment stayed at $2,500. And the donated funds, for corner for other equipment, we took that out because we did spend that $118. The next one is magistrate salary, which is based on a 1.9% CPI. Went from 29,671 to 30,235. So that'll be your next four line items. Expense allowance is at 3,600, which is 14,400 for the total. Magistrate's training incentive, basically stayed about the same, but it's calculated based on your all's incentive, and it's 16,864.
That's for four, right?
Four of them, yes.
Yep.
Advertising legal notices, we dropped from 8,000 to 7,000. Grant consulting contract stayed at 35,000. We took out the healing center and the legislative research consulting, we took that out. Contracted engineering services, you'll see it was at 40, it's at 42 because we actually transferred money into there. I think last year we did only have it originally at 2,000, we got it at 2,000 for this year. We never know what kind of engineering services we're gonna need. We do not have the jail architect engineering, that was back from 17-18. Lease payments,
Can I ask a question about
Yes.
that? So the money there that we approved in the last court, is that any part of that?
Was 11 or 14?
that's part of that 42,000 that we've spent so far, or the 49.5 that we've
Okay,
spent.
all right, I got you.
You talking about the little 13,000 deal that the jailer Tussey wanted?
Right.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be in this year's budget.
The
though.
new evaluation with the other,
With the other
changes.
proposals?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that what you're asking, Tom?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that'll be in this year's budget though. Like she's saying, it's part of the 49,000.
Either it will, or we can, which one was it?
We, just last court, there are a couple more options
Yes.
on what we potentially might do with the jail. It was the difference in, the way we house now or, direct supervision.
new
Was it
design.
amendment to the existing contract?
Yeah,
Right.
and we will probably get that before, if they start to work right now, we'll probably get it before June 30th, it'll be in
Well,
this
they're
budget.
working
But
on it,
I
yeah.
will transfer money into that line item to pay that bill.
Is that what you're asking, Tom?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's probably gonna happen in the next week or two.
Lease payments are at 23,624. Contracted legal services, we do not have that in there anymore. 911 county support. So last year we had 183,219, this year it's 248,165.
Glenn, go back, the lease payments, what all does that include?
That includes, to Mike Rice for the tower on Big Hill Avenue, and it also includes to the Crystal Community Center. Those are the two leases that we've had.
Okay.
Well, it also probably includes, well, you might have that separate though. What we pay on rescue.
Yeah, that's separate.
That's
It's got its
separate.
own line item.
911, is it jumping drastically about every year, or?
No, it just depends. And when we get to 911, I'll explain that, but the biggest thing is our landlines have drastically
Yeah.
dropped.
Well, that's
We'll
what
So
see what we were.
the counties are having to, the county and the cities are having to pick up the
Pay the
difference.
difference.
In 3 years, we've gone up $140,000.
that's what I say. Yeah,
Or gone, I mean, more expense. to
there's
us.
gotta be a decision made there on cost or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you look back to what it was costing, before we combined, the 240,000 is not
Yeah.
very much money compared to what we were.
Well, yeah, right, yeah.
The community liaison contract, I showed you on the revenues where that comes in. That's a wash. That's for Craig Williams, 50,000. The magistrate supplies is at $250 a piece, $250 a piece. Registration and licensing stayed at 200. Special projects stays at 10,000. The training and travel for the magistrates each stayed at 1,500. The PVA statutory contribution stayed at 176,800. Board of Assessment and Appeals stayed at 1,200. County treasurer's salary increased with the raises that we have in effect. As we get into these salary line items, you'll see that those reflect the raises that are going to be proposed for in our first reading. Went from 73,077 to 75,452. My finance office staff, which includes Melanie and Angel, went from 110,447 down to 105. And the reason, we had actually some part-time help budgeted in there last year, and we took that back out. So even though it was a drop, they did get raises. The postage machine lease stayed at $2,500. The shredding service stayed at $350. Checks, W-2s, deposit slips stayed at $1,200. We no longer have finance office supplies. It's called finance third floor office supplies. We buy all the office supplies for everyone on the third floor. We were able to lower that from $5,000 down to $4,000. Finance office postage, we lowered down from $7,500 down to $6,000. Finance, and one of the things to help on that postage is the what we passed about paying the utilities electronically, because every time we send an envelope out, it's 50 cents now. So anything that we can do to cut down on postage helps. Finance third floor printed materials, we dropped from 1,000 down to 500. Finance office training and travel, we took from 2,000 to 2,500. Hopefully Melanie will get to go to a few more trainings. Human resource director went from 42,435 up to 52,435. Employment testing program it stayed at 20,000. Human resources office supplies is no longer there. HR safety implementation stayed at 15,000. Human resources training and travel went from 1,700 to 2,500, and hopefully she'll be able to attend more trainings. Employee trainings went from 1,300 down to 1,200. Occupational tax refunds. This could be where a company sends us an estimated payment, or we have people who, especially the ones in the military, who are working outside of Madison County. The depot still takes it out on them, or the military takes it out on them as if they're working in Madison County for the occupational tax, but they may be assigned over in Afghanistan. When they come back, they bring their work order papers showing where they're out of country, and we refund them back the occupational tax that was taken out of their paychecks.
Or it could be out of town as well.
Oh, it could be out of town. It doesn't even have to be out of country. It could be out of
there,
town.
it could be in Colorado or wherever.
Yes. But it's also, we could have a company make a $20,000 estimated payment, and then when it ends up owing, they only owe $5,000. They can ask for a $15,000 refund.
Yep.
So there's a lot of things that goes into this, but the last few years we have went over. You can see 2 years ago it was $67,000. This year so far, hopefully we won't have much more, is $79,000. So we've raised that from $50,000 up to $80,000 to cover those costs. Fees to circuit clerk stayed at $1,200. Election board commissioners went from $4,400 up to $6,000. Election officers stayed at $72,000. Election advertising went from $8,000 down to $4,600. Election ballots and maintenance went from $32,000 up to $64,000. We did have it, if you'll look back to 17-18, we had it at $60,400. We lowered it down last year because Kenny had thought because of the new system that we wouldn't need as much, but we actually did. We ended up spending $74,000, so we raised it back up to $64,000. Election office expenses, we lowered down to $15,000. He thinks those numbers come from Kenny. We asked him what he projects he's going to be spending. There is no longer an election equipment purchase. Janitorial personnel went from $157,960 up to $165,780. Custodial overtime stayed at $500. Courthouse dumpster service stayed at $25.50. Courthouse custodial services stayed at $5,500. Fuel, we added this fuel line item at $1,500 where they travel to the different parks and CSEP to do the custodial cleaning and everything. We added in a line item for them. Custodial uniforms, we kept at $500. Courthouse decor, which could be anything, including our Christmas decorations.
Hey, one thing I want to mention, I think it's important to mention this, guys, is that, we've been here since 15. And our 15 budget, when we came in, that line item for custodial supplies, I think was at $17,000. It was $17,000 or $18,000 is what custodial courthouse supplies was. So, that shows you how far we've come in 4 years, so.
They do a remarkable job,
Yeah.
too.
So anyway, it's good to bring that up just to refresh, because you don't see that.
Courthouse decor, we raised from 500 to 1,000. We spent 949 last year. We just want to make sure we have plenty in that line item. Courthouse repairs, we left at 26,000. Custodial travel reimbursement, we left at 100. Nothing spent out of there, but we just want to have that line item. Courthouse water and sewer, we dropped from 5,000 down to 4,000 based on the usage. Courthouse electric, we dropped from 42,000 down to 38,000. Courthouse natural gas, we left at 5,000. Custodial vehicle repair, we added a line item in for $1,000. They've just had vehicles in the last year or two. Custodial equipment, we left at 1,000. Family court custodial supplies, we raised from 1,900 up to 2,500. Family court repairs.
And I'll say on that, part of that probably too is that's where court designated workers went. And so we're cleaning a little bit more space over there than what we were, so.
The family court repairs, we have at 6,000, which based on our number of what we've used so far, 5489 this year. We do not have family court telephone, they take care of that. Family court water and sewer, we left at 1,000. Family court electric, we left at 48,000. Family court gas, 1,500. We no longer have finance courthouse or custodial supplies. First Street Annex custodial supplies, we lowered from 400 to 300. Madison Avenue custodial supplies lowered from 350 to 250. We no longer have planning office custodial supplies. County Parks custodial supplies, she lowered from 600 to 500. Road Department North stayed at 450. Road Department South stayed at 300. We did add in a fire custodial supplies for 400. We no longer have finance repairs, but it's called First Street Annex repairs. We dropped it from 8,000 down to 7,000. Madison Avenue repairs, we dropped from 6,250 down to 1,250, and that was mainly because we had to replace a unit down there last year. We should not have that this year. County Parks repairs, we kept at 8,200. First Street Water Annex, water and sewer, we left at 650. Madison Avenue Water and Sewer, we dropped from 1,500 down to 750. First Street Annex Electric, we left at 16,500. Madison Avenue Electric, we dropped from 10,000 down to 8,000. Yes.
How did the Madison Avenue water and sewer go from estimated 1,500 down to $202?
Because I think they're at the very minimum now. We used to, when we had the Madison Avenue, we had solid waste downstairs. We had planning and them upstairs and the IT there at one time.
Not as many offices over there.
No.
Well,
The only thing we're doing is
and
renting it.
also in the real estate appraiser group,
Very seldom in there.
well, there's 2 employees there, and then they have their annual, like, board meetings every now and then. There's several there, but they don't use it a whole lot.
No, I think we get the minimum charge now.
$1,300 savings right there.
Yes.
Okay.
The First Street Annex natural gas, we dropped from $2,171 down to $2,000. Courthouse Annex stone cleaning, we no longer have that line item. Courthouse Annex custodial supplies, we left at 5,000. Courthouse Annex repairs, we've got at 34,000. Courthouse Annex renovation project,
What do we think about that?
What is it?
the annex repairs.
What is annex repairs?
We've had a lot of problems with the elevator this year that's cost us some repairs, but hopefully they get that lined out and we won't have those problems. But
And we've had some heat and air issues over there as well, you know, with that cooling tower. You remember we approved that heat strip or whatever that was in the cooling tower that was, we had to drain it all the time. We had high water bills and, so, I mean, I feel like a little bit that we're getting it,
we
Getting
keep
lined
hoping.
out.
getting lined out, you
Okay.
know? Yeah. So, I hope anyway, you know, but some of that has to do with poor construction that them people didn't take care of back when it wasn't done correctly, you know, so.
The courthouse annex renovation project, we don't foresee anything right now for it, so we have it at 0. Courthouse annex water and sewer, we dropped from 8,000 down to 6,000, just based on the usage.
Again, that goes back to, you can see what the water was,
11,000.
11,000.
Uh-huh.
So that's what that cooling tower fix
Yeah.
has done to that, you know.
So hopefully we'll recoup our cost.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Courthouse annex electric, we dropped from 85,000 down to 78 based on the usage. We've only used 62,704 so far. The information tech staff went from 232,600 down to 208,988. That's with some rearranging. They did get raises, but we did take a position out that he's no longer using. That was a GIS coordinator, I think.
He was
or-
in there, we never hired it.
Yeah, so he's just got Ryan and Megan right now. He did have another gentleman last year, so that's the reason it dropped down. System software maintenance, went
Is
from,
Jonathan not in that?
no, Jonathan is under
Jonathan's in the
CSEP.
CSEP
Yes.
side, yeah.
So he's got Jonathan now. We
Yeah,
don't need
that's
that
right.
extra person.
Yeah, yeah.
The system software maintenance, now all these next expenses come from Chris, so if you have any questions about them, Chris can answer why they went down or
And I'm
whatever.
sure if you ask a question, that he'll probably just pop right in here.
Yep.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm sure, and it'll be, it's all, he bases it on what he knows we're gonna spend this year. So, system software maintenance went from 66,000 down to 28,000. IT department expenses, he kinda grouped, we had this broke out in a whole lot of different line items that we really didn't need to break it out into. So we've grouped it now into like all of the, instead of breaking it down between hardware and software and this and this and this, we've got like IT expenses, road expenses, finance expenses, so you'll kind of see that. But anyway, IT department expenses, it's $10,240. There's Christopher.
You didn't even wait for a question.
No, because that first one has a big $40,000 change, because we're going to now start billing departments for the individual softwares that everybody uses. So that line item used to be where everything was bought from, all the software.
There you
But in
go.
order to, how do I say it correctly, take advantage of CSEP dollars, as long as we bill all of our department agencies equally, we can then bill them for things. So the fiscal soft payment for finance is like $38,000 a year. We were paying that in totality. Now we're going to bill the sheriff theoretically, we're going to bill the jail, we're going to bill CSEP, we're going to bill IT, and we build it based on the number of employees. So our backup software, all of our big expenses that were in that line item, you'll see later, we have added line items to bill them for those individual softwares so that we can take advantage of billing CSEP for what they use. So that's why it's a big drastic drop
Reduction,
there, but
yeah.
you're going to see it come right back later down the list.
So the next one, we're gonna jump down to environmental expenses, it's at 9,958. Finance expenses are at $7,337. Fire department expenses are at $23,140. Planning expenses, and this is for everything IT and planning, everything IT and finance. Planning expenses are at $5,039. Road department expenses are at $26,443. Golf expenses are at $13,225. HR expenses are at $5,510. Jail expenses are at $29,055. Judge's office expenses are at $2,039. Facility expenses are at $2,482, which that's custodial. Coroner expenses are at $1,236. 911 expenses are at $12,742. Clerk expenses are at $2,714. PVA expenses are at $223. County attorney expenses are at $1,831. Sheriff expenses are at $5,697. Copier maintenance, we were able to lower from $2,780 down to $2,300. So we did, you'll see these next copier maintenances, instead of having it broke down between each one, we have one copier maintenance line item, which helps us in our departments. Pictometry, contractual services,
I want to
yes.
ask a question real quick. So where is, so this is the expense.
These are all the expenses.
These are all the expenses for all those IT services. All right,
Mhm.
okay.
So when we pay a bill, instead of paying that fiscal soft bill
Yeah, I
from
get
one
that. I'm
line
just trying
item-
to figure out where the, I'm just trying to, in my head, I'm trying to figure out where the CSEP side is.
You will
Is
bill
it-
the CSEP line item directly,
Yes.
and you will bill, are we billing, we're not.
So then there should be a revenue line item on that, on the revenue
Well,
side.
no, he's
Right.
gonna actually bill it and there'll be a check cut from CSEP.
But then it'll have to go back in on our revenues.
No, because it's not going in the
Go
general
right out
fund,
of the
it's
fund.
going straight to fiscal soft. So when he gets the fiscal soft bill, the CSEP's portion, they're gonna pay for it.
Oh, so we'll send in
We're gonna
multiple
send it to
checks.
them
I
and
got
then
you.
it-
We're
they'll,
trying to prevent,
yeah.
every time we turn around, it's an in and an out, and it.
It's very
I got
hard
you.
when we get
Okay.
audited, cause it makes our revenues and expenditures inflated because we do so much in and out.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna break this down, so if a bill to fiscal soft is 50,000,
Mhm.
CSEP's portion is 10, we're gonna write a $40,000 check, CSEP's gonna write a $10,000 check, and we're gonna send them both in together.
Exactly.
Okay,
There's about 8 different pieces of software that's how that will.
okay, all right, so we're not gonna see it as a, I got you.
Yep.
All right, I'm caught up, sorry.
Pictometry contractual services is 44,800. This is where we pay the big pictometry cost and then we collect it on the revenue side from the other people. IT fuel, we left at $1,000. The access channel supplies, we left at $250. The county telephone system, we left at $29,000. The county, and that's where we pay the one bill for the telephone system, and then we collect on all those revenue sides. County wireless telephone, which are cell phones, we left at $20,000. IT training, travel, IT director, went from $4,095 to $4,155. The travel for the systems administrator went from $3,853 to $4,030. The GIS coordinator went from $997 down to $920. Chris has those calculated exactly how much those trainings are going to cost. The county internet system went from $20,500 down to $16,112.
That's another partnership with CISA. So where we were all in these separate facilities, moving everything to CSEP like we did last year into that one big data center and actually merging those networks, that's where you see the cost benefit. So instead of having 6 different internet connections that we were paying hundreds of dollars for, we have one that costs us about $1,500, and we pay that thirds. 911 pays a third, the county pays a third, and CSEP pays a third of that. So that's why it's dropped down.
Does that have something to do with the fiber texture wire that you?
That's the only reason it works.
Install, yeah.
Only reason this all works.
Chris is always working on saving us money. Does a great job. The IT vehicle repairs, we dropped from 1,000 down to 900. System hardware maintenance went from 31,500 up to 82,000. I'll let you.
So that reflects a equipment purchase. Again, this is another cooperation with CSEP. We really couldn't do what we do without them, so kudos to them for being able to pull that money in. The hardware that we all currently use was purchased when I first got here. It's the first thing I did, so it's about 12 years old. We have ran it until it could run no more. There are so many security requirements these days with CGIS and FIPS and all those things that require us to have hardware that meets certain standards, and it has to be updatable. Now where we sit, we cannot update any further than we are, so we're landlocked. We have to change it. Those numbers roughly work out to $40,000 to $45,000 a box, and we need 9 of them. So you're seeing an $80,000 expense. CSEP decided that's going to see about $180,000 expense. We did a 10-day product demo on Monday that I hope will kind of relinquish some of those costs in the future for us, because this county cannot afford a $320,000 expense in the coming years. There's no way. And like it said in the thing I wrote up, those expenses are going to get, they used to be pretty far, right? You would have a pretty big time between those large expenses. That window is shrinking now because those security regulations are requiring us to do so much to stay up to date. So what you're going to see is that $320,000, if we don't do something different, that's going to land on us in 4 years. We just don't have that, right? That's not going to be sustainable for us. So this new thing that we have, I just kind of fell into it. I went to a lunch meeting with somebody, and this guy was there, and I've never heard of it, and he came by. It really allows us to be more agile. So when these kind of things come up, instead of having to do one big bulk purchase, I could buy 2 this year, I could buy 1 next year, I can combine them together. When that one's dead, I can move it out and buy 1 more. I don't have to go and buy 9. I can buy 2 or 1, and that's something that we can budget for and actually afford. So hopefully that cost comes down because it's cheaper, and hopefully in the long term after CSEP, it's something that we can actually sustain, because I'm not forced to buy all 9 at one time. I can kind of buy onesie-twosie as we can budget to refresh those resources, because it's not going to get any cheaper and it's not going to get any less, because the way we are moving, technology is everything, right? And those resources that we consume on a daily basis are just gonna keep climbing, and that means dollar bills, right? So
What's the frequency of replacing those?
CSEP is on a federal refresh of every 3 years. So they, no questions asked. If a piece of equipment is 3 years old, they're going to replace it. No questions asked. We don't work in that environment because we cannot afford that. That stuff has been running for 12 years that we're on. So that is a remarkable testament to virtualization and to our diligence of maintaining that equipment. Unfortunately, it's just, we're stuck now. We just have to do something. So thankfully, CSEP is here. Thankfully, hopefully, we hope that that 3-year window lands right before CSEP gets ready to hit the road, right, and we get another refresh with them so that we kind of extend that expense one more time. So we'll know here pretty soon. We should get some numbers sometime this week about what that looks like again. We're hoping it's a big cost difference as opposed to what we're usually used to.
So is this routers, servers?
Those are servers.
Servers.
Yep. That one line item is servers. So last year, there was some money in there that replaced the core switching infrastructure, which was part of all that fiber building the network. Now you're here. So it's gonna be one thing after another every year, right? 1 year I'm gonna do switches, 1 year you're gonna do routers, 1 year you're gonna do servers, and guess what? We're gonna start right back over, right? We're gonna right back into servers or telephones. That's another thing that probably comes down the pipe. You know, that phone system is about 8 years old, almost 9 years old now. At some point, it's not gonna be supported. So that's what you run into, is now they're forcing you to not be supported, and that's really the game. So we're staying on top of it and trying to find the most effective way to use our dollars and make sure that when post-CSEP comes, we're not strapping ourselves with something we cannot afford.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The next line item down is storage maintenance. We went from $2,300 to $2,600. And then that pretty much wraps up the IT. Then we get down to juvenile housing and medical, and mostly this is billed from the Lexington Juvenile Facility. We have had 25,000 in there for the last several years now. Several years ago, we were up to, they were sending a lot of juveniles over there, and we were getting billed for $40,000 to $50,000. As that's went down over the last 6 to 7 years, we've lowered it down, but we've still kept 25 in there because we never know when or how many juveniles are going to be sent over there, or when they're going to bill us. They don't bill real regularly from the Lexington facility. So we still left that at 25 just to be safe.
About how many does that 25 cover? I mean, individually?
I'm not even sure how,
You don't know.
we get those bills so
One's
few.
bill could be 20 times higher than the other one.
Yeah, and if they have medical on it, it can
Absolutely.
be added on there too. It just all depends. We don't get very many bills from them anymore. But I'm afraid to lower it down or take it out because
Yeah,
you just never know.
That's not really a high number for housing juveniles.
No, I think they're doing.
Well, and it's gone down. I mean, I think the Department of Corrections has changed their mindset on incarcerating juveniles.
Yes,
is
I
what
think
I've
so too.
Been told.
They're doing more alternative programs.
They're doing more alternative programs than they are of truly, sending them to either Lexington, or I think we sent them to Mount Sterling.
Yes, we used to have from, and we haven't got a bill from
Moorhead or
them
somewhere
in
over there, yeah.
a long
Lexington's
time.
main.
Yeah.
But that's out of control and those type of things, especially when school starts up, the first little bit when school starts up, and we see.
Yeah.
a lot of
Spike in.
negative.
Yeah. So we'll leave that at 25,000. The planning and development staff went from $200,090 to $220,142. We are doing some reorganizing in there, so that's the difference on that. That's not all raises. That's some reorganization, codes enforcement and stuff like that. Board of Adjustments we kept at 6,000. Planning Commission we kept at 16,000. Planning legal notices we kept at 2,500. The comprehensive plan development we kept at 3,000. Planning development legal services. This is actually what Jubal was paid out of. We are going to keep that at 10,000, but it's not going to be paid out in payroll anymore the way it was before, after July 1. We do no longer have a public works repairs. That line item is under the custodial now facilities. Electrical inspections contract. We used to pay that out of the line item for staff on planning, but we decided to go ahead and put a line item in for it. This is where we pay a contracted price to Del Fortney for the electrical inspections. Right now it's averaging around 60,000. Just depends on how many inspections he does a month. Property codes violations, we left at 2,000. Planning gasoline, we left at 6. Equipment supplies, we dropped from 1,500 down to 1,000. Signs, we left at 1,000. Reimbursements at 2,000. Training and travel, we kept at 6,000. Subdivision security lights, we kept at 12,000. Planning vehicle repairs, we dropped from 5,000 down to 3,000. As you can see, we've only spent 1,600 so far. Fire department staff went from 815,100 up to 886,551. Firefighters incentive stayed the same at 104,000. That is a pass through.
The fire staff, that's a pretty good increase there. Is that people?
That is.
Probably we're short some people and now we've got them back.
Yes, and we did some work with the raises and with the classification table. So that includes all the reclassifications and the raises and stuff.
And if you look back at 17, 18, it's not near as a jump either, you know.
Yes.
Last year we knew we were down. We were short for a lot of firefighters, you know,
Right.
so.
Yeah, the year before that it was 844.
So the fire department staff, from 675 to 886, that reflects the raises?
Well, 660.
Well,
you can't use
815.
You can't use 665.
Yeah, that's
because
just
that's what it is for 9 months.
yeah,
Okay.
So
Well,
you
it was
got
815.
815
yeah.
to 886.
That's more people as well as raised, included too, probably.
Yes, raises. And it just we have people come and go. Our fire departments, the turnover in it has been crazy. We've got positions open right now, but I do have those budgeted. The firefighters incentive pay for 104,000. That is a pass through. I had that on the revenue side. It's coming in. They actually give us the 104,000 plus the retirement portion of it. The equipment annual testing, we raised from 3,510 up to 4,000. The fire department supplies we kept at 7,000. Fire gasoline and oil we raised from 25 up to 35 because you can see we're already at 26,137 and we're not through the year yet. Fire specific equipment we raised from $20,490 to 30,000. Tim does have some plans to buy some specific equipment. The fire PPE equipment we raised from 17,000 to 25,000. He also has plans on buying some new PPE equipment. Uniforms we raised from
And
16,000.
I think some of that PPE equipment has lifespans,
Yes,
doesn't it?
and it has to be replaced.
and it has to be replaced. And I
Yes.
think that's why it's going up.
Personal protection equipment.
Yes. Uniforms went from 16 to 17,000. Berea Fire Department stayed the same at 38,000. Kirksville Volunteer Fire Department stayed the same at 16. Waco stayed the same, 16. Whitehall the same, 16. Union City the same, 16. Berea Rescue Squad, we had the discussion about Berea Rescue Squad, Berea Volunteer. We decided to put Berea, they're both combined kind of the same. They work out at the same location of thing. We've just put in Berea Rescue Squad at 8,500, and they are aware of that. So we no longer have a Berea Volunteer Fire Department line item anymore. It's called Berea Rescue Squad. The Red Lick Volunteer Fire Department stayed at 16. Fire building repairs stayed at 7,000. Training and travel went from 6,000 to 9,000. And Tim had some mandatory training that he had to get for some of his people. That's the reason for the increase. Fire Department number 2, water and sewer, we lowered down from 2,000 to 1,500. Fire Department number 1, we lowered down from 1,012 down to 750. Fire Department number 2, electric, stayed at 8,000. Fire Department number 1, electric, raised from 10 to 11,500. Natural gas for number 2 stayed the same. Natural gas for Fire Department number 1 stayed the same at 1,500.
Do you think that the electric for the number 1 is because of building size? Is it square footage?
We break it up by square footage.
Right. But I mean, you would think that building would, that the cost would be lower than that because it's got all state-of-the-art stuff in it.
I would say it has to do with the size,
Yeah.
Tom.
Okay.
You got to think how many bays there are. at the Keeneland Drive, and then the new, the new bay over there. And then I know the sleeping quarters and everything is so much greater in size.
The doors going up and down, you know.
Yeah, which that would be roughly probably the same. They do have more runs out of that station, I'll have to say, than they do at Station 2, so that might have something to do with it.
17, 18, it was 12,000, so it's down 500 from that.
It stays
Yeah.
pretty consistent out there at Fire Station 2.
We just look every year at what the usage was the past year, or past 2 years, and try to take the best guess.
But it is prorated, because 911,
Yes.
CSEP won't pay for the whole building.
Yes,
So CSEP pays a portion, 911 pays a portion,
Fire
and then
pays a
fire pays a portion.
yes.
So, and the chief comes in out of there more. He opens that door more, because that's where his office is, So,
The fire vehicle repair and maintenance, we left, I think like the original was at 30,000, we left it at 30,000, even though we went just a little bit over this year. Fire communication equipment, stayed 1,500. We do not have capital projects. Fire rescue equipment, there is some rescue equipment that is needed to be purchased. We've got 50,000 in for it. It's a project that Tim's doing. Madison County Rescue Squad stayed at 12,000. And Berea Rescue Squad, we just moved up to a different line item. Madison County Rescue Squad water and sewer stayed at 1,200, and their electric stayed at 5,000. EMA staff went from 73,000 down to 71,585. Program advertising stayed the same at 150. The ThreatNet weather service stayed the same at 1,800. EMA hazmat supplies stayed the same at 2,000. EMA gasoline stayed the same at 1,000. EMA vehicle repairs went from 4,000 down to 1,000. Office supplies, materials and postage went from 500 up to 600. EMA uniform stayed at 4,000, and registration stayed at 1,000. And then all those CSEP line items are no longer in our budget. Then you jump down to the ambulance grant, which stayed at 10,000. Forest fire suppression stayed at 1,800. Dog warden, solid waste director, 65,023 to 66,258. Animal shelter staff went from 115,000 down to 106,942. We did do away with one position there. The animal shelter overtime stayed at 3,000. It was originally 3,000. We did away with the advertising. The medical supplies stayed at 5,000. Animal shelter donations went from 2,100 to 2,500. Animal shelter food and supplies stayed at 3,500. Microchips for animals went from 6,500 down to 5,000. Animal shelter gasoline stayed at 5,000. Animal shelter vehicle repairs stayed at 4,500. Office supplies stayed at 2,000. Operational supplies stayed at 500. Animal shelter uniforms 1,800. Shelter repairs went from 2,100 down to 1,600. Animal shelter training and travel went from 1,000 to 1,500. In case we need some of our officers trained on specific things. Animal shelter water and sewer stayed at 500. Animal shelter electric stayed at 11,500. Natural gas stayed at 2,000. The mowing stayed at 1,500, which is done by the road department, and then they bill for it, and the animal shelter pays the road department. Animal shelter equipment repairs stayed at 1,000. I believe it was 1,000 last year. Animal shelter vehicle, we've got 30,000 budgeted in there for an animal shelter vehicle, which we will not spend unless we need to, but we wanted to put it in there. Animal shelter spay neuter program stayed at 15,000. Solid waste staff went from 165,750 down to 161,036. That is with the raises, but we did pull out one position that we had not filled in the last 2 years, so we pulled that position out. Solid waste overtime stayed at 5,000. Litter abatement program from 61,000 to 63,000. Solid waste contracting services went from 36,500 up to 38,000. Hazardous waste 16,250 to 16,000. Solid waste dumpsters stayed at 20,000. Illegal dumps, we have at 1,000. Solid waste fuel, went from 38,000 down to 36,000. Solid waste vehicle repairs stayed at 30,000. We do not have office supplies. Dead animal removal supplies stayed at $1,250. Operational supplies went from 2,000 down to 1,500. Solid waste uniform stayed at 1,500. Solid waste contribution fee, 2,600, stayed the same. Solid waste reimbursement stayed at 250. Solid waste training and travel stayed at 1,000. Safety city supplies stayed at 800. Safety city repairs stayed at 1,000. Safety city water and sewer stayed at 800. Safety city electrics went from 2,700 down to 2,500. Soil conservation support salary, this stayed the same, 78,438. Court ordered legal psychological stayed at 40,000. General welfare burial assistance stayed at 2,000. Airport board, we kept at 25,000. Kentucky River Foothills transport, we kept at 44,000.
Can we back up just a second?
Yes.
To the charitable programs,
Mm-hmm.
no charitable program support now?
No, and we didn't have it last year either. We haven't had it since 2007.
We leave the line item in there, you know, in case we come up with,
You
you
can
know,
always add it back in if
extra
you want to,
funds.
but it's not something that we're doing.
Well, I always not think about those, because I still get letters every day. And we still get letters, people wanting help, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we get them too. I mean, they're all sending them in this time of year because of budget. But, you know, and that's a decision this court makes of whether or not we wanna, you know, put money in that line item for our charitable giving program
This services that needs paid.
but we gotta take away from something else, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, and it stinks. I mean, I don't think anybody would disagree that we got some great organizations that we'd like to help. When we're struggling financially and trying to do everything we can to not raise taxes or, you know, whatever, then I think those are the first things that have to be cut. You know, it's unfortunate, but.
The Kentucky ASAP grant, it's the same, but after the first of the year, we will get with them and they'll give me a balance and I will adjust this line item whenever they give me the balance of what we're carrying over to the next year. So until we get done spending at the end of the year, we don't know what the balance is. Harm reduction grants the same way. They will have 20,000 new money coming in, but we will adjust their balance after the first of the year. Richmond Senior Citizen Center, we kept at 10,000. Berea Senior Citizen Center, we kept at 10,000. The Hope Wings Health and Family Grant, still 100,000. The county park staff went from 40,000 to 42,465. The Battlefield Park dumpster service went from $900 to $1,200. The Wheel Green Park dumpster service stayed at $500. The county parks fuel went from $800 down to $400. County parks vehicle repairs went from $2,500 down to $750. County parks office supplies stayed at $300. Battlefield Historic Park special events stayed at $2,000. Then you come down to the Herndon Ranch House utilities. We did have 1,000. It's at $1,200. The Battlefield Visitor Center water and sewer stayed at $500. The Battlefield Park sewer and water went from $500 up to $700. Whitehall Park water sewer went from $767 up to $1,400.
Doubled. It's almost double there.
Yes, and you know, I'm not sure exactly why.
You know, that's weird, ain't it?
Is that the,
Oh, well, no, it hadn't doubled. See, it was 1267.53.
Okay, I was looking at the 767.
Last year it was 1267.53. We'd only budgeted 767.53.
Yes.
Okay.
We might have done our math wrong last year, not
Yes, because we had 1,400 the year before.
year before. Yeah,
I don't know what happened on that.
yeah. I mean,
But
we
we're back
timed
up to the
water.
1,400. Union City Park went from 250 up to 400. Will Green Lake 2,000 down to 1,500. And we might have just might even go lower than that. But anyway, 2,000 down to 1,500. Battlefield Visitor Center Electric, 4,250 down to 4,000. Battlefield Park Electric, 5,063 to 5,500. Whitehall Park Electric, 1,300 up to 2,000. Union City Park Electric, 500, and we raised it to 1,000 because we've already got 865.03. Kirksville Park stayed at 750. Will Green Lake Marina Electric we lowered from 1,400 down to 500. Battlefield Visitor Center Natural Gas 1,250 down to 1,000. And
Can I ask you a question?
yes,
Why would the water and sewer at Will Green be an increase and the electric be a decrease? You might want to.
Will Green Water and Sewer
Well-
was actually a decrease, 2,000 down to 1,500.
I think they've,
And I think we've cut it off
I
now.
think we cut the electric off, Tom.
Yeah.
I believe.
So the ramp lights, we'll have the ramp lights down there? You're talking about on the facility itself?
Mhm.
All right, so.
Yeah, no, I
and
think-
Gary took
I
that
think
over,
the
so he's
ramp
made
lights
some
are-
changes.
I think the
since-
ramp lights are like dusk to dawns or whatever, like a street light is in a subdivision or whatever. It's probably just a flat fee, and it might be even, that light might even be in our subdivision,
Yeah.
lights.
All right.
But this was, I think, the light to the, or the electric to the, way station or whatever.
Yeah, Gary's
I
made
believe.
some changes in it
Mhm.
just recently, and that's the reason we lowered them down. So it's not really based on the usage from last year, but some changes that Gary's made, as he's overseeing it now. The Battlefield Visitor Center Natural Gas, 1,250 to 1,000. Battlefield Park Natural Gas stayed at 500. County Parks Mowing, the road department does the mowing and bills them for it, stayed at 20,000. Then we get into the golf course. The pro shop staff stayed at 110,000. Golf course advertising handicap fees went from 3,200 down to 2,500. Pro shop custodial supplies 1,000 to 1,100. Pro shop food resale stayed at 12,000. Merchandise resale went from 7,000 up to 10,000. Pro shop office supplies went from 800 to 1,000. Pro shop repairs pest control stayed at 2,000. Pro shop painting project, this is a project we're putting in for this year. We estimate it'll cost 7,000. Golf course maintenance staff, this actually went down. We had an assistant greens superintendent who resigned, and we did not replace that position, so it went from 158,000 down to 125. Golf cart lease went down from 37,200 down to 33,222. Maintenance equipment lease stayed the same at 55,000. Golf course dumpster service stayed at 1,680. Maintenance barn supplies went from 5,000 down to 4,000. Chemicals, fertilizer, and seed went from 45,000 up to 48,000. Golf course gasoline stayed the same at 22,000. Golf course aeration went from 9,800 up to 11,000. Golf course equipment maintenance and repairs went from 12,500 down to 10,000. Golf course irrigation maintenance stayed at 5,000. Golf course uniforms at 500. Golf course sales and usage tax from 24,000 down to 18,000. Golf course training and travel, and also the sales tax. Last year they passed a thing that we had to charge sales tax on everything. I just talked to the revenue cabinet a couple weeks ago and talked to Gary. Starting July 1, we no longer have to charge sales tax on greens fees or cart fees. The only thing we have to charge sales tax on is food and
merchandise.
Merchandise.
So that was a good change in the law. Golf course training and travel went from 2,000 down to 1,500. Golf course water and sewer stayed at 4,200. Golf course electric stayed at 13,000. Golf course natural gas stayed at 2,000. We don't have any capital projects. Valley View Ferry Authority stayed at 20,000. Our principal on our 2017 bonds went from 305 to 315,000. Our interest went from 229,350 down to 222,200. Our 2012 series bonds, the principal went from 440 to 450,000. The interest went from $179,275 to $172,675.
And y'all remember the 2017 too, just to, everybody keep in mind what that is. That's the family court building that we purchased, 2017 series of bonds,
Yes.
which that amount is reimbursed back through
Through rent.
AOC,
AOC.
and through our rent too. Is really on the basement part. And then the 2012 series of bonds, that is a mixture of the annex building, the jail, and the golf course. So just remember that. All right.
The next one down is the Keiko fire truck lease principal. Went from $38,105 to $39,148. That should say interest on that. No, I'm sorry. Keiko election equipment lease principal was $50,983 down to $45,874. The Keiko fire truck lease interest went from $12,408 to $11,211. On the election equipment, the interest went from $10,797 to $13,905.
Hey, can you check that out and just see why it went up? Interest should always go down.
Lease interest.
Unless the rate of interest changed.
Yeah, it shouldn't have. I don't think.
It was fixed.
I don't think. Yeah, I think it's fixed. Will you just check on that though?
Got my note. Purchase new property. We've just got $50,000 in there. Not that we have anything to purchase, but we just like putting some money in there in case we do need to. Then you run down to capital projects equipment. We've got $50,000 in there. We had $40,000 there last year. We have not spent it. Don't have any plans to, but it's just for an emergency. Auditing services we kept at $40,000. Insurance property liability, it was at $556,838 last year. It's at $560,291. Insurance claims we kept at $40,000. Public officials bonds, we went from $20,000 down to $5,000 because we paid most of our officials bonds the 4-year rate last year. Dues went from $20,000 to $21,000. Reserve for transfer, and that is not the correct number. Hold on, because it's been adjusted. But let me give you the correct number from our budget last year.
It's 2.5.
Our reserve for transfer last year was $2,598,014. Our reserve for this year is $2,568,657. So we're within $30,000 of what we were at in our reserve last year.
And the reserve the year before wasn't the 1.8 either though.
No, it wasn't. This has been adjusted by transfers and everything on this.
Right.
So Social Security went from $190,100 to $191,241. The retirement went from $785,000 up to $871,333. Our life insurance stayed the same at $5,000. Employee health insurance, with some recalculations and some positions that were no longer filled, went from $476,000 down to $442,000. Unemployment compensation insurance was $35,372 last year. It's $34,475 this year. Workers' comp was $232,861 last year. It's $239,972. Medicare was $44,475 last year. It's $44,726. And we no longer have the health insurance account in the general fund. It has its own fund now. And that is the
Thank
general
you,
fund.
Glenna. That's the end of the general fund. Do y'all have any questions about the general fund? Expenditures. If not, does anybody need a little break? Use the restroom?
Yes.
Because I know I do.
Take a break.
All right. Let's take a break for a minute. We'll be right back.
have the.
All right, let's get back in it.
Are y'all ready?
All right, guys, thank y'all. For those that are watching, thanks for waiting on us for a few minutes. Next, we're moving on to the road fund. Is that correct, Glenna?
Yes.
All right, and we have Scott Shepherd here, our road department administrator, guys, if y'all have any kind of questions whatsoever. So, go ahead.
Okay, we're gonna start off with the revenues. The bridge emergency state reimbursement, we've got, we're putting 100,000 in there. We know there'll be some money flow through for some type of bridges. We're not exactly sure what all there'll be this year, but we're gonna put 100 coming in, 100 going out. We do not have any transportation cabinet money this year. Last year we had 207, which we actually have not collected on, but hopefully we will get it in before June 30th. We do not have anything right now. If we were to get something later on in the year, we would budget them in that in. The flex funding last year was 293,000. This year is 295,303 $303. The truck license distribution last year was 223,032 was what they asked us to budget. They've asked us to budget 223,513 for this year. That's handed down from DLG. Driver's license refund we left at 7,500. County road aid should be at $1,433,330. That amount is given by DLG. Municipal road aid is $141,284. That is also given by DLG. County fleet vehicle repairs, we were at 118,000 last year. We raised it up to 140, just based on how much work we're doing. And that is where we bill people out for the work that we're doing. We bill all of our departments. We bill the utility district, anybody that we repair for. County mowing, 25,000, and that's what is billed out between the parks and the animal shelter, and that's the line item that money comes into the road fund. Road reimbursements we left at 5,000, and that can be anything reimbursed for. Interest earned we left at $500. Surplus, last year we ended up having 372,000. This year we have budgeted 200,000. We actually had budgeted 200,000, but we actually had 372 left over at the end of the year. Transfers from other funds, last year we had to transfer, or we have budgeted to transfer 821,795. We've only transferred 500,000 of that. Now I do believe we'll have to transfer a little bit more before the end of the year. But next year it is budgeted 933,697 for the revenues. Is there any questions about the revenues? That is, the difference in the total budget from last year is actually down 121,339, but the majority of that is we don't have that 207,000 under transportation cabinet monies coming in. So that's the reason the whole budget is down.
Hey, Glenna, if we, so for next year, I wanna talk, and we're gonna get into this in a minute about the trucks, buying 10 new dump trucks. But if we took out a loan for 10 new dump trucks, would there not need to be a revenue for that money?
It needs to be in the LGA. The LGA fund, not this fund.
Well, LGA is where we're paying for the payment. But if we get a loan and we get in
The money and
the
spend out the
money
money.
and then spend it out, it would need to be a revenue, right? Where were you gonna put it
Yes.
unless that institution where we get the loan from writes the check?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
I will look into that and make sure. Because it's going to be a wash in and out.
It is
But-
gonna be a wash in and out, but
But I'll check and make sure. I'll check with DLG and make sure exactly how they want it
Do you
to
see
flow
what I'm
through.
saying?
Yes, I do see what
Okay.
you're saying.
Is the surplus there, is that LGA?
LGA is its own fund, which we'll
Yes.
see it in a minute.
It's
Surplus is basically what you have in your checking account as of, isn't it like July 1st?
30th.
Or
Yeah,
June
July
30th?
1st.
July
Whatever
1st.
you have on June 30th sitting in your checking account, that's what comes over as surplus to your new budget.
Glenna, the transportation cabinet, the 207,000 we received from them last year, why did we get that and we're not getting it this year?
Because it's for special projects.
That's just like discretionary.
That was a special project fund?
Yeah, like it's for discretionary projects. And actually, we haven't gotten that money in yet. We've just finished the projects. There was like 3 of them.
Okay.
And so we're in the process of getting all that turned into them, and then they should be cutting us a check, and hopefully we'll get the check before June 30th.
None of that was a Bogey Mill project, that was.
What projects was that? No, it was Cedar.
Cedar Hill, Cardinal Drive, and Arbuckle.
Okay, those were bridge projects, weren't they? Yeah, I remember those.
So where's the other one coming in? One you just asked about?
Bogey Mill?
Yes.
I think we've already gotten that in. Have you done that? No, we haven't done that yet.
We've done partial.
Okay, then we don't get the money in till after we complete the project and turn all the invoices in. And normally, if we don't know exactly when it's gonna be, when it comes in, I'll budget amend it in, and then we'll take care of it.
And
And that way we know exactly how much we're getting.
It was over 300,000, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 346.
In that area.
When do you think you'll be done with the bogey
It'll
man?
be late fall.
Okay.
But that's already an agreement. I mean, we already have a resolution for that. Like, that's already an agreement between us and the Transportation Academy. So, I mean, we know what they're gonna, well, I mean, you guess what they're gonna
'Cause it's really
reimburse, 'cause
hard,
it might
because
not even, it might,
we
they'll
have
only
to-
reimburse us back what it
Yeah,
costs.
we have to pay for these expenses as we go, but we may not get the money back for a year. So until we get that money back, I usually don't budget that, because I never know how long it's gonna take. So when I get that money back in, I can budget them in and put it to wherever we need it.
And on the revenues, I'd rather us be a little conservative on some of those things.
Yeah. That's all the revenues. We'll go into the appropriations for the road. Road supervisor salary last year was 65,742. This year 67,386. Office staff 25,585. It goes up 30,564.
Is that CPX? I mean the CPI
No, these are based on
classification?
the classifications.
And that's the classification change.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
What
you-
will be presented.
And you'll be presented that before you actually vote this budget. The road administrator, 58,208 to 60,245. Service parts manager, 41,601 to 45,360. Foreman, and this is one person, 48,631 to 54,000. Assistant foreman, 115,732 up to 125,756. And those are three of those. Light duty mechanic, 35,319 up to 37,692. Medium duty mechanic, 44,471 to 50,436. Heavy duty mechanic, 49,608 to 52,812. Heavy equipment operators, $101,005 to 111,132.
How many's in
Yeah,
there?
yeah.
Three.
Three.
Three. Those are three. Light equipment operators, $130,676 to $173,016. And I think there's five.
5 or 6.
Yeah. I don't have my thing with me, but it's based on exactly how many there is. Truck drivers labor, $158,716 to $212,828. And I think there's seven truck drivers. We no longer have masonry. Overtime pay stayed at $75,000. Seasonal workers stayed at $60,000. Bridge emergency repairs, now it's at $358,000 with all the projects, but we're gonna have it at $100,000. But we also had $100,000 coming in, so that's emergency money, and it's a wash through. Sometimes it doesn't. We have to spend it out before we get it back. The next one down is contracted surveying. It stayed at $5,000. Medical supplies stayed at $1,000. Dumpster service stayed at $2,500. Asphalt resurfacing stayed at $425,000. Asphalt flex funding went from $292,882 to $295,303. Asphalt patching stayed at $75,000. Asphalt discretionary went to $0. That was where the $207,000 was. The concrete
And
stayed.
that 207, make sure y'all remember that in the revenues, that was discretionary money for asphalt. Yeah.
Yes.
Mark there.
But I'm talking about in the revenue side. I think somebody was talking about it might have been for other projects, like bridges
Right,
or
we
whatever.
thought it was bridges,
Yeah, it
yeah.
was not. It's discretionary for asphalt.
Concrete stayed at $22,500. Erosion control stayed at 10,000. Rock 23 stayed at 5. Crush base went from 10,000 to 15,000. Rock number 9 stayed at 2,500. Rock 57 stayed at 5,000. DGA stayed at 35,000. Riprap stayed at 15,000. Diesel fuel number 2 stayed at 50. Off-road diesels 25,000 stayed. Bulk oil and grease stayed at 15,000. Salt, we have actually, it was at 200,000 last year. It says 120 because we've taken money out of that to transfer to other line items. But it was at 200 last year and it's staying at 200. Garage supplies, went from 10,000 to 15,000. Gasoline stayed at 45,000. General construction materials went from 10,000 to 15,000. Equipment parts went from 75,000 down to 65,000. Motor vehicle parts for heavy trucks stayed at 75. Motor vehicle parts for light medium trucks stayed at 35. Parts for fleet vehicles, we're keeping at 80,000. Office supplies stayed at 3,000. Safety gear stayed at 5,000. Pipes and culverts stayed at 40,000. Signs stayed at 12,500. Tools stayed at 2,000. Equipment tires and tubes went from 20 down to 15. Truck tires and tubes actually went from 20 up to 25. Uniforms stayed at 14,000. Training and travel stayed at 10. Water and sewer north 1750 stayed. Water and sewer south stayed at 1,000. Electric north stayed at 14,000. Electric south stayed at 5,000. Natural gas north went from 8,000 down to, or 8,000 up to 10,000. Natural gas south went from 5,000 down to 4,000. Road north repairs stayed at 3,000. Road south repairs stayed at 3,000. Radio communications equipment stayed at 1,500. Road equipment purchase last year we had 70,000 in there for purchase, and this year we have 0, and we'll go into that in just one moment. Reserve for transfers last year we had 56,000. $50. Actually, I think we've added some money into that. Hold on just a second. Reserve for transfers last year was actually 26,451. We've got it at 20,000. Social Security match was at 63,755. It's at 71,656. Retirement match was at 204,123. It's going to be at 263,632. Life insurance stayed at 1,800. Health insurance went from 185 down to 172, and that's because of some elimination of some positions. Medicare went from 14,911 to 16,759. Now, we cut back. We had originally had some equipment in the road budget, but we decided it would be better to purchase it out of the LGA budget. And if you want to flip over, we can do the LGA real quick because that's all it is. Skip past the jail for just a second. LGA money is either coal impact tax or mineral severance tax. Those two things. Currently, we do not get any coal impact tax. We only get mineral severance tax, and we get about 140,000 in a year. That money can only be used on road projects, road asphalt, road equipment. I did check with DLG to make sure we could buy road equipment out of it. They said yes. So we decided the best use of this money is get some equipment that we needed for the road department. So that with the money coming in plus what balance we have surplus from prior year of 500,000 gives us a total of 640,500. If you flip to the next page to the expenditures, we've got road equipment for 236,000. That is a backhoe, 2 tractors, and 2 trucks.
And 2 mowing tractors, there's bush
Two
hogs
mowing
with those
tractors, yeah.
mowing tractors, right?
So that's a backhoe, 2 mowing tractors, and 2 trucks. And then road materials, this is just what our balance would be in there to use for any kind of asphalt that we needed. Does not mean we have to use it. We have not been using it the last few years, but that's what the balance would be 389. Then the other would be taking a bond out to purchase 10 dump trucks. The bond payment in the next year on those 10 dump trucks would only be an interest payment for $14,800. After that, the payment would be around $145,000. That's including principal and interest for 10 years.
That'd be a 10-year bond payment.
What's the cost of those trucks each?
Approximately 120,000 each, so you'd be taking out a note of 1.2 million. The lifespan on those trucks is approximately 20 years, so you'd be paying those trucks off in half the time. I think our newest truck we have right now is a 07, 06. So our newest dump truck is a 06.
15 years old.
And Scott, if you want, you can come up if you want and just sort of explain your thought process. You know the background of our trucks. And if you don't mind, Scott, just sit right there and pull the mic around. We don't have a mic over there at the platform. I think it's good for us being proactive and planning ahead. And
Glasses there if you need.
it'd be good for the masters, I think, to kind of hear the what we've been working on from reoccurring expenses and trying to, instead of getting ourselves in this shape with our dump trucks, we're trying to get on a cycle to where we buy one dump truck every year. Because we have 20, correct?
We have 20 snow trucks, and the average age of our snow trucks currently is 24 years old. They only have a 20-year lifespan. So my worry was, we're gonna get down to a day where we have a snowfall, we don't have anything to clear it with. So I talked to the judge, and my idea was to go ahead and put an immediate 10 trucks into the fleet that will allow us to pull 10 of the oldest trucks out of the fleet, and we will repurpose those for the use of our dump trucks. I know some of the magistrates has come to me and called and said, is that really our truck on the road in that bad a shape? And I've had to say yes, because that's all we have. So we're gonna repurpose the snow trucks now, put them as dirt trucks, put 10 new snow trucks into the fleet. And the plan is to buy a new truck each year along with this bond payment, and do that for the next 10 years. That will get us 20 new trucks in 10 years, and then we'll have a 10-year period that we won't need to buy a truck. Yeah. So we'll have the 20-year lifespan ahead of us, or the additional 10-year lifespan ahead of us, and all the trucks won't be the same year model, and they all won't go down at the same time like what's happening now. In this process, I don't know how much we can save, but I told the judge there will be quite a bit of savings in the maintenance. I think we have 75,000 budgeted
For heavy trucks.
So by putting 10 new ones in there, that's gonna decrease, I'm hoping, by about $25,000. I don't know that, but that's my guess. Because these trucks are in such poor condition, we're having to spend chunks of money to keep them going, such as $5,000 transmissions, $6,000 motors. So you really eat up that $75,000 quick.
And we talked about, what we get in every year on the LGA money, that would be a good use of the money to go towards that bond payment every year, to cover that expense.
So combine last year's LGA money and this year's, a total of about 640,000.
Mhm.
Then we're gonna spend 236, and then the 14,000.
The 236 pays for a new backhoe, which is approximately 80,000. It buys 2 pickup trucks, which we're already on that path. We're buying 2 pickup trucks every year. They're on a 10-year lifespan, to not have all these things going down at once. So it's 80,000 backhoe, $50,000 in the 2 pickup trucks, and then you got 2 tractors and bush hogs
At 50,000 apiece.
for the additional money, which should.
How much is the pickup, Judge? I'm sorry.
They're approximately 25,000 each, so that's 50,000.
Yeah.
So that's 50 and 150 and 80 be 230. What we got? 236. So maybe the 2 trucks are.
And I think each tractor was a little over 50,000. I have all the
Maybe
numbers
52.
on my desk. And the backhoe at 80,000, I want y'all to understand that the new backhoe is 125,000. But we have an 86 model with 9,000 hours on it. If anybody knows anything about machineries, it's limping. So they've offered us that much trade-in off of the 125 to get it down to 80,000.
Is that the newest one you have then? It's got the 9,000 on
No, we have, you all purchased one 2 years ago.
it? I didn't, yeah. I
So
didn't
we
think-
have one with only like 1,800 hours on it.
Yeah.
And then we have another one that's a little better shape than this one we're trading in. So what we're trying to do is like every couple of years, maybe get one to replace the oldest ones, to keep a viable fleet.
And then we also got that mini excavator we bought too, which has been very useful.
It's took a lot of heat off of the backhoe situation, cause there's a lot of places we use it that, it better suits, than taking a big backhoe in somewhere. We can take the little mini excavator.
Which it's quite a bit cheaper piece of equipment.
But it is, but everything we have, and you're all welcome to come down, I'll walk you through it. I've got charts and graphs and everything showing what condition the road department equipment is in, and we have a long way to go. This is just getting us started in the right direction.
Would that be the same size backhoe that you bought 2 years ago?
That it'd be the same identical backhoe. And the reason I'm doing that is because that way you only have to stock parts for one, and you're servicing two.
And that's what we're doing with the pickup trucks. That's what you'd be doing with the dump trucks as well. And all those are bought on state contract.
And the dump trucks we've chose, and we've delayed this, we were gonna approach this last year, and all the medium-duty truck companies were having engine problems. And they finally, latter part of last year, they came with a Freightliner dump truck with a Cummins engine and an Allison transmission that's never been paired up before. Both of them are foolproof. So we're going into something that can be worked on and hopefully gives us no problem like the old Max Forces did. So we base this
Or
on
the
a
problem,
timing
that's
decision.
like the problem we have with the dead animal truck, right?
Correct, the Max Force engine. And that 125,000 roughly per dump truck, that is actually the cabin chassis. That's the dump bed installed, that's a new snow plow and a new snow spreader,
So it's fully equipped?
fully equipped. All we have to do is put radios in them.
All right, Scott, thanks, man. Appreciate it a lot. Guys, any questions? Any more questions? All right, that ends our road fund
And we
and
covered the
and LGA.
So now we're gonna get into the jail fund. And just real quick, I'm gonna give you a little stats on the jail fund. Our jail fund total compared to last year is $669,060 higher than the budget, the total budget was last year. Of that, we did have some increases in some of the revenue line items. So of that 669, the general fund's having to give $347,760 more than we did last year. Some of the things that contributed to this increase in the budget is the payroll, because we did do reclassification. They've had a horrible time keeping employees. Our turnover has been just phenomenal. We also had, we switched and put the home incarceration program under the jail fund. So that's $141,475 that we put into the jail fund that's gonna increase their total budget because that's the home incarceration program. The payroll increase was $159,425. Repairs on the jail, we've had to jump those up by $80,000 in this new budget. Contracted housing, we've had to jump up $100,000, and that's where we send inmates out to other counties because of our population increase. Contract medical had to go up $75,000. That is their normal 3% increase, but that's also when we get over a certain population, they have to bill for those extras, and so that's the reason for the overage over what we were budgeting. And retirement went up $100,000. So those are some of the things that increased the jail budget overall. So let's go to the jail revenues. It starts out with our state jail allotment. Last year we had $201,000. We only brought in, this is a one-time payment at the beginning of the year. They only sent us $181,338. It's one of those state mandated things that they keep defunding, and we keep having more expenses. So we only budgeted $180,000 for this coming year because we only got in $181 last year, and they do not give you a heads up of how much they're going to send. Court cost collections, we had it 18,000. We've already brought in the 18,550, so we raised it up to 22,000. Contracts with SSA, this is with Social Security Administration. When we report that somebody's on Social Security that is in the jail, we get an incentive payment. We had it at 18,000 last year. We're going to increase it to 20,000 for this next year.
Unless it's sponsored back.
State prisoners, we had, yes,
Let's get
I'm sorry. Got it.
Yeah, we went back there after we did the LGA there.
Yeah.
State prisoners, we had last year at 590,000. We are already at 617, and we have 2 more payments that come in. So we raised it up to 650,000, and it just depends on our population, how many state prisoners we're holding each month. But I feel confident that we can get to 650,000. The DUI fees, last year we were at 9,000. We raised up to 12,000. We've had 100% of that in. We've already brought in 13,351. Miscellaneous, we kept at 500. The law enforcement supplement, we had at 7,500. We brought in 7,226, and that's 100% of it. So we lowered it down to 7,000. The local corrections assistance, as you'll see, 2 years ago we had it at 69,000. Well, last year, DLG recommended that we lower it because they foresaw a decrease in that coming. So we lowered it to 25,000, but that decrease did not come, and we still brought in 65,000 this last year, and that is 100% in. So we raised it back up to 65,000 for this next year. Work release, we raised from 100 to 1,000. As you can see, we brought in 735 so far. Jail housing fee, this is a new line item, but this year so far we brought in 39,835, and that's not complete yet. We raised it to 50,000. The home incarceration fees, which the jail will be collecting now that they've taken over that program, we put in at 40,000. The jail bond collection fees, we lowered from 200 down to 100. We've only brought in $10. The booking fees, we've increased from 60,000 to 112. We've already brought in 84,000, and that's not complete for this year. The medical fees, we left at 8,000. The jail telephone commissions, we brought from 85,000 up to 125. The 75,000 that we brought in so far is not complete. We still have like 3 months to go. Plus, Steve has did some negotiations with the companies that we're using for the telephone commissions, and feels like that we will be able to bring in the 125,000. Is that correct?
And then the new company also is gonna supply inmate iPads that they'll do visitation on, which there'll be a
Yes.
fee for.
Yes. So we feel like that we can increase that to 125. The jail commissary reimbursements, we're at 200,000. We will be getting more in from this, and we should make the 200,000 for next year. The county attorney traffic school fees, we raised from 3,000 to 4,000. That is complete. 4,305 is what we brought in. Interest earned, we left at $100. Surplus from prior years, last year we were at 50,000, but this year I'm going to raise it up to 100,000. I think we'll have 100,000 sitting in the bank on June 30th. Transfers from other funds. Last year was $2,175,427. This year is $2,523,187. So that's a difference of $347,760 is what we're going to have to pay for difference from the general fund. And that is the revenues for the jail fund. Any questions about the revenues?
I was gonna ask Steve what is, some of his projects he's gonna use the commissary fund for. What would that go to?
A lot of that's gonna be in my transportation stuff, taking care of my vehicle fleet.
Okay.
This, all of our transportation stuff is gonna increase, John, especially with the more inmates going out to other counties. And between me and the sheriff, we both have to do a lot of transporting back to the courts.
Are we increasing on state prisoners and state inmates?
Not really. That's generally holding pretty steady at somewhere between 50 and 60. it's such a moving number, it changes every week. So it can go from 40 to 80
Because of your capacity to.
because of capacity, yeah.
If we had more room, we could keep it.
Right, yeah.
Right, absolutely, we had more room, but at some point, and that's just something we've talked about a lot, and I've looked at a lot of projections, at some point, the two numbers, are state inmates that have revenue on, and their county inmates that we're sending out to other facilities. Right now, we're kinda like this. At some point, those numbers are gonna equalize, and therefore it's not gonna be beneficial to keep state inmates. That's probably somewhere in the next year or two,
With the room that you have.
with the room we have.
Okay.
If we're sending out more state county inmates to other counties and paying for those, just so we can keep the beds open for state inmates, at some point, that doesn't make money anymore.
No, it doesn't, and then you gotta weigh in your transportation.
It's $32
Cost.
to $29 basically,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. But actually, that 32 that we're getting from the states, that same inmate's costing us about 25. So we're only making $6 or $7.
Mm. Thank you.
Okay.
Any more questions on the revenue side of the jail fund? If not, let's move on to the expenditures.
All right. Jailer salary is just like the judges set by the state, and it is $105,350. Jail deputies went from $736,800 to $896,225. Those are some classification upgrades. That is also that was including new deputy. What else?
We were going, right now, I think you had 7 per shift, and we were gonna try to go to 8 per shift.
And this is only gonna get us to 7.
Yes.
This is only gonna get 7, okay.
If we went
Yes.
to 8, their budget was gonna be
Big
almost $1
900
million.
and something
thousand.
900 something.
I got you.
So that's one of the cuts we made when we first originally
I
did it.
backed off of that yesterday, just
Okay.
trying to help.
All right,
Yes, because we sat down yesterday cutting numbers and we cut 184,000. It was $184,000 more than this was what the budget was. So
My wish list for 8 per shift went back to 7.
okay,
So right now, I'm just trying to maintain 7.
yeah.
We're gonna talk about salary increases and percentage and clarification. or
yes, you're going to get a
classification.
classification. Like for instance, we were only starting deputies out at $10 an hour. This will start them out at $11 an hour.
Okay.
So it's a full dollar increase.
And then it would proportionally, John, change some of the supervisor
Yes.
staff.
But we're gonna talk about that in a few
Yeah.
minutes.
Well, not in a few minutes. You're going to talk about that on next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday, all right.
Rachel does the classifications, and she will be sending out to you before next Tuesday the classification table for you all to be looking at before the court meeting.
On all departments then?
Yes,
On everything, yeah, be across the board.
yes.
Right.
So you can see the different, but this has the
numbers
classifications budgeted in.
Reflect
We
that.
we didn't want, we wanted y'all to see it with it reflected in it. We know we haven't proved it yet, but we haven't proved the budget yet either.
Right, we wanna
Yeah.
know what it's
Yeah,
gonna look
we
like.
wanted you to see what the bottom lines were by doing that, because we're having such a problem with retainage across all departments.
Yes.
So that number includes those changes in classification.
Then we go down to assistant jailer at 55,000. Home incarceration staff,
So the jailer was, the assistant jailer's going backwards.
we've been notified that he's planning on retiring. So, there will be some
I'm gonna
changes.
absorb that and probably into a much lower position, Tom.
Mhm. The home incarceration staff is a new line item for 56,500. That is a $14 per hour deputy that is running it, and then an $11 per hour deputy to, and they will be actually going out and doing,
And
the
those
enforcement.
positions, of course, will be dictated by the number of inmates in the program.
Right now, we only have
Those-
one of those positions is open. We don't have the
Those are
$11.
approximately one staff per every 25 inmates.
So we haven't reached the number that we need another deputy yet. But I had to go ahead and budget for it. Office manager went from 51,467 to 52,834. Jail secretaries went from 44,000 to 61,646. And that was an increase that we actually implemented this past year, making one of the secretaries from part-time to full-time. But the reason we did that, if you look down on maintenance staff, we had a second maintenance staff person that they decided they didn't need, so we used that money to go up to the secretary position. So in budgeting for that, it goes to $61,646. We no longer have bond clerks, and as you'll see on the maintenance staff, it dropped from $53,192 down to $33,674. Jail overtime, we left it $110,750 at $110,000. Part-time personnel, we left at $90,000. The jailer training incentive went from $4,138 down to $1,054 because this will be Steve's first year of getting his training incentive, so it's not as much. The IT support went from $10,000 to $11,868, and this is where the detention center pays Chris for their IT support. Building repair and maintenance, even though it says $95,000, we only had $65,000 budgeted last year. So we're raising it from $65,000 to $100,000 because of the extensive repairs that we're constantly needing over there.
So, where'd you 65 from? Sorry.
This is from the original budget. These have transfers in here. From my software, it automatically puts the transfer in there. But if you look back at the original budget, we had $65,000 in there, and now we're going to raise it to $100,000. And the equipment repair on the next line item, we had $55,000 in there, and we're going to raise it up to $100,000. As you can see, we've already spent $64,805. Contractual medical is going to be going from $380,000. Well, actually, we had $350,000 budgeted last year. We've already had to transfer in there up to $380,000 right now. We'll have to transfer more before the end of June. We raised it up to $425,000. Dumpster service remained the same at $4,500. Contracted inmate housing last year, we had $300,000 budgeted. I know it says $203,700. Is the only reason it says that is because we transferred money out of that line item. But now, if you base it on the population that we have now and what we're having to send out in the last 2 months of inmates out, you multiply that times 12 months, and we're going to come in at $400,000. Last year, at the end of the term for Doug, he did not have hardly any inmates out, and so we did not have a cost on that. But since January 1, the population has increased. We've had to constantly be sending them out, especially the last couple months. And now that the bills are rolling in for those, we're averaging, it's going to come out to about $400,000. So we originally had budgeted $300,000 in there. We're going to raise it to $400,000 for inmate housing.
And then one thing I want to make mention there too is we kind of got to do this worst case scenario, but obviously with the home incarceration program getting transferred from the county attorney's office to the jail, you know, hopefully that will help us there a little bit, that we can get more people out of jail. Maybe it'll help that number.
Yes,
So,
and if we come in
just
lower,
keep
that'd
that
be
in mind.
great. If we only spend $200,000 next year out of that $400,000, that'd be great. But we want to be prepared for the worst.
Yep.
Custodial supplies, we left at $65,000. We've worked really hard. Sherry's been working really hard. Robert's been off and on getting the best prices that we can possibly get on custodial and maintenance supplies. So we left that at $65,000. Contracted food service, we actually lowered this down from $500,000 to $475,000. We think we're going to come in about $460,000 or $470,000 this year.
Still kill well.
Yes, still Kelwell. They've been doing a great job. I
Doing
mean,
a great job. Right now, it's based on the population, it's a sliding scale based on the population. Right now, we're doing $1.06 per meal.
Can't be
It's good.
no.
It's good.
Fuel, we've lowered from $15,000 down to $12,000. Vehicle repairs, we've raised from $6,000 to $10,000 based on they have more vehicles now in their fleet. Office supplies, we raised from $500 to $1,000. Home incarceration monitors and supplies, we've got $60,000 in there, and that's to pay for the monitoring and any kind of supplies you need. Yes.
All right, I'm sorry, I don't mean be
No, you're
back,
fine.
but I'm trying to think and listen at the same time, which is very dangerous.
That's okay.
Just to be extra. So our fuel cost is gonna be going down,
Mm-hmm.
yet we've increased vehicles. We're increasing vehicles and we're lowering our cost, and we're increasing our contracted inmate housing, which means more road time, but our fuel's gonna go down. I don't see that happening.
It's based on our consumption this year. So far, we're only at 8,000 and something. We're probably gonna end up at around 9,000, maybe a little more. So 12 was just an estimate of the use next year.
I hope we're right.
I hope we are.
That'd be a good thing.
But that's
Oh,
why
I
we
do
have a
too.
reserve for transfer. If it does end up going over a couple thousand,
But it's,
we will transfer it from our reserve over to that line item.
Like so many other things in there, Tom, it's a moving target.
Yeah.
It's just a best guess.
Down to the home incarceration monitors and supplies at 60,000. Staff uniforms stayed the same at 3,000. Jail insurance claims, we always leave it in there at $100. We did spend out 10,000 last year in deductibles, but we'll just leave it in there at $100. Hopefully we won't have any. Routine medical stayed $1,000. Jail association dues stayed at $825. Staff training, we raised from 4,700 to 7,000. There is some training that they needed to get done. Telephone went from 3,500 down to 3,200. Travel expense stayed at 500. Water and sewer stayed at 113,000. Electric stayed at 75,000. Natural gas dropped from 24,000 down to 20,000. IT equipment, we raised from 1,000 to 10,000 because they do need some new computers and stuff that.
Some of that, I
wanna
think,
budget
is for camera.
A lot of it is camera, we're putting cameras in the circuit courtrooms, and we need to match those so that we have service with circuit courts. And to do that, we had to upgrade some of our server.
Yeah.
Will there be more video?
That's the plan.
Arraignments?
Absolutely.
Are the
That's,
judges on board with that?
They're getting there,
Okay.
slowly,
That's a needed thing.
yeah.
The jail public bond, we left at $1,000. Reserve for transfer, let me see what it was last year. We had it at 20,000 last year. It'll be at 20,000 this year. We've used, we've got 9,850 looks like left in there. Social Security is going from 80,000 to 96,538. Retirement share is going from 252,000 to 352,976. Life insurance is $2,205 to $2,520. Health insurance went from $220,000 to $264,000. And Medicare match is $18,500 to $22,577. And that is the expenses of the jail fund.
Guys, do y'all have any questions on expenditures for the
I
jail?
did, back, jail insurance claims, Lena,
Yes.
in the past, it'd been up to 12,500, so why can we get by with $100 now?
Well, we may not have any claims at all. It's only if we have a lawsuit go against us, we get a $5,000 deductible. I think the 2,500, we had to pay 2,500 one time for something. We didn't have to pay a full deductible on it for some reason. But normally, anytime we have a lawsuit, it's a $5,000 deductible. But there's been many years that we've not had any lawsuits. It's just so happened that the last 2 years, we've had some lawsuits that we've had to pay a $5,000 deductible on. But there's probably the 3 years before that, we didn't pay anything.
So we'll just pull that out, transfer it if we need it
Yes,
for that?
yes.
Steve, can I ask you a question? That's
Sure.
not money-wise, but home incarceration, do you send them out of county home incarceration?
No, right now it's in county.
Just in
But
county?
that's a bond condition that the judge can dictate.
I'm just concerned about how you check on one when they're out of county.
Right. And
Take
that's the
somebody
reason
to
right
drive
now-
there and check on them, you know?
And that's the reason right now we're keeping it
Right.
in county.
Okay,
It just makes it a lot easier to police it.
sure.
Yeah, it has been that way previously, when they could send them other counties.
I know we had one in Laurel County. Went to the house and the bracelet was there, but the guy wasn't there.
Mhm.
You know, How long you been gone? Had no idea.
Yeah. And we've changed a lot of our, and updated our policies on how we monitor them. So it was just a GPS monitor, now it's gonna be a GPS monitor plus an actual on-site visit.
Okay.
All right,
We have went over the LGA budget, skip over it, and we get to the CDBG. We have not closed out the God's Pantry, God's Outreach Food Pantry. So we continue to carry that over until that grant closes out. So it's 300,000 federal grants coming in, 300,000 food bank building project going out. And I think there is another CDBG project on the horizon, but we would not put it in the budget until we actually.
yeah, that's the
This one
only,
has to close out before we can start another one.
no.
Well,
Not
not
on this
necessarily on this new one.
This one, this new one's different. You can have, it's not the exact
Yes.
same thing. It's at Kit Carson Commons that we've partnered with the City of Richmond and Kentucky River Foothills EKU on,
Okay.
which is an expansion county of the Scholar House, you know,
With
a
our
training
housing
center,
up there,
veterans. So y'all familiar with it? We've passed the.
But we haven't got the
resolution.
full grant agreement on it yet, so
It has been approved, but
if we
haven't.
get it before second reading, I may put it in here before our second reading. If we don't, then I would budget amend it in whenever we got it next year. The next is a CSEP, and we'll go over it. You know, it's big numbers. If you look at the revenues, everything that comes in pretty much is a Homeland Security grant payment. It's $48,692,813. We only have $500 in reimbursements, which you can see we haven't brought anything in that. Cell tower rent, we do get from Harris Radio. We do get cell tower rent, $16,661. CSEP interest, we have at $500. Surplus from prior year, we have at $375,000, and I think, let me look back at last year. I think last year we did have 869,662, but now the 375 is pretty much the money that we have sitting there waiting to pay back to FEMA or whatever we need to do. We have it sitting in a separate account. It's at 375. Other than that, we try to keep the money flowing through. That's a total of $49,085,474. And if you go over to the expenditures, I'll read through these. Don't know a lot about them, but I'll read through these. CSEP staff salaries is $3,503,858.
And remember, guys, we've gone to 24-hour, 24/7 operation. You know, we've had a lot of hires. Obviously, with the D-mill getting ready to start up, we've had to do that.
The fringe benefits for CSEP staff is at $1,077,103. The CSEP program support is the money that we have set in that account at $375,000. The siren maintenance project, $194,670. The CSEP calendars at $250,801. 800 megahertz service contract at $1,264,753. Radio tower maintenance, $247,396. Hardware and software maintenance, $262,119. Public affairs initiatives, $473,689. Siren systems batteries, $75,000. AAR system replacement, $4,500,000. The siren expansion replacement, $2,958,000. The 800 megahertz replacement, $11,925,551. The generator replacement, $250,000. The antidote stockpile, $450,000. The AARs and siren computers, $60,000. Radio tower replacement, $80,178. Tower site enhancements, HVAC, generators, UPS, $253,423. State CSEP contracted services, this is a pass-through that the state is paying, but they pass it through us, 75,000. Office supplies and miscellaneous office services, 153,238. Fuel for the generators, 28,608. Exercise supplies and printing costs, 19,341. Decon capabilities, Zoomro stations, $8,318. Community protective action, $2,230,175. CSEP training, $303,394. ELC costs, $1,180,888. JIC operating expense and maintenance, $327,632. ELC roof, walls, and maintenance, $75,000. Medical requests, $620,619. First responder training costs, $30,000. Emergency response accountability system, $80,000. EOC repairs, $2 million. CSEP travel, $261,033. ELC utility costs, $491,733. Decon Zoomro trailer maintenance, $22,005. Computer servers, $51,005. Additional handheld radios and supplies, $142,606. JIC and Federal Response Info Systems, $96,759. The auto call down reverse 911 support, $69,500. Monitoring equipment for off post, $340,755. Protective action equipment, $80,000. Equipment for community preparedness, $150,000. Phase 2 of the 800 megahertz replacement, $5,787,449. Phase 3 for the 800 megahertz replacement, $4,987,449. They did not have reserve for transfer. Social Security county match, $217,239. Retirement county match, $843,082. Life insurance, $1,800. Health insurance, $158,500. And Medicare county match, $50,805. And that is the CSEP budget.
Yeah.
Any questions on CSEP, guys?
Just glad it's passed through.
That's a big old.
It's all passed through.
It's all reimbursement.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. So, in the next budget is the 911 budget. Now, the 911 budget, the total budget is down $160,812 from what it was the previous year. The total budget is. And that's because we finished a couple projects, for one thing, that we had in there last year, projects. But it's also down because, so that brought the total budget down. But the reason that the, each entity is having to come up with $61,396 more than it did last year, is landlines are down $220,000, and even cell phone lines are down $50,000. So our revenues are down in 911, and that's the reason the entities are having to share the cost of the difference. So telephone tax, last year we were at $820,000. We've only brought in $565,000. We're gonna budget for $600,000 this next year. Cell phone receipts are at $400,000 last year. We only brought $275 in so far, and we have budgeted for $350,000 for next year. Fiscal court operational support, last year was only at $53,436. This year is at $181,973, and that's for the three entities. You can see the three line items. But the in EMS operational support, they give us $40,000. They give the 911 $40,000 a year, and it stayed the same. But the project support last year was at 130. We had more projects going on. Was at 133,333. This year the project support's only at 66,192. But the two combined is an increase of a total of 61,000 per each entity. 911 interest stayed at $250. Surplus from prior year, last year was at $575. We have spent some of that money out on projects, so I'm estimating it at $500,000 for this next year. And that is, and there is no transfers from other funds.
Hey, Glenn,
Mm-hmm.
we get paid a fee for the admin of
Yes.
911?
Yes.
Where is it at in our
It-
revenues?
We bring it in under reimbursements from other entities. outside
Okay,
entities.
so it's not, it doesn't say,
It doesn't say from 911.
okay, all right.
If you could move over to the appropriations. Dispatchers and 911 did their own, their board comes up with their own, classifications and everything like that, which they redid their classifications a year ago. But they gave a 2% raise this year. So this is based on a 2% raise. They went from 1,017,397 up to 1,037,325. Overtime last year was at $162,064. They lowered it down to $75,000, and it's somehow to do with the scheduling that they're doing. They're not getting the overtime that they were. The Madison County Fiscal Court accounting 1% admin fee last year was at $24,533. This year's at $25,000. So they pay us that money for administering their bills and their payroll and all that kind of stuff. IT support went from $25,000 up to $30,000. The GIS support stayed at $5,000. Computer software maintenance went from $87,652 to $127,652. Those are all based on Wendy and Chris sitting down with exactly what the computer software cost is going to be. Building maintenance repairs stayed at $1,000. The new hire and medical testing stayed at $4,000. Custodial supplies stayed at $1,800. Office supplies stayed at $4,500. Uniforms stayed at $5,000. Educational supplies stayed at $600. Property liability insurance, they pay this to us. We have their property liability insurance, but they pay us their portion. Stayed at $9,312. Accreditation fees stayed at $2,000. Reimbursement stayed at $500. 911 cell phones they reimburse us for is $720. Telenetworking database costs stayed at $70,000. Training and travel stayed at $16,000. Internet stayed at $5,400. Water sewer stayed at $500. Electric stayed at $5,000. Natural gas stayed at $700. Copier maintenance stayed at $3,000. Miscellaneous stayed at $500. Equipment, there is some equipment they're going to purchase. Last year they had it at $5,000. This year they have $45,000. Capital projects 911. Last year they had $63,262. This year it's at $198,575. But if you look down the CIS CAD system, last year was at $251,088. That project is finished, so that line item goes away. The total response power phone was at $85,650 last year. That project is finished, and that line item goes away. Reserve for transfer. Let me see what theirs exactly was. Reserve for transfer, it was $14,026 last year. It's at $20,000. Social Security went from $73,127 down to $69,998. The retirement match went from $253,349 to $267,625, and a lot of that is due to attrition. Like a lot of times we have higher paid employees that are leaving, and we're replacing them with lower paid employees. Let's see.
Life insurance?
Yes, life insurance went from $1,575 to $1,638. Health insurance went from $165,000 to $171,600. Unemployment insurance stayed at $5,000. Workers' comp insurance went from $9,199 down to $7,800. Medicare match $17,103 went down to $17,000. And that is the total on your 911 appropriations.
Any questions on 911, guys? All right, our last one is our self-insured health insurance fund.
Yes, and so last year we started out with about $251,755 is what we had built up in our kind of savings in our health insurance fund. We have budgeted for the surplus from this year coming over being about $400,000, and I would say that's a very conservative number. I think it'll be over that. I mean, we're doing really good at building our balance up.
Balance up, yeah.
The health insurance reimbursement for this year should be around $1,680,000. and that's the money coming in from all the entities to pay into the health insurance fund, including the fiscal court. And then you'll see the self-insured health insurance account line item is $2,080,000. That's how much total from what's coming in this year plus what our surplus is that we could possibly spend out.
What was the number we spent out last year, Glenn?
So far, 922,950.
But that's only 9 months, or,
Yes.
okay. So even with the projected, you're talking
Yeah, we-
250,000 more on that?
Yes, we're projected to come in quite a bit lower.
Way under.
Mhm.
It's doing really good.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on
You
wood.
never know, but
But I think a lot of the
it's
things,
been a good change for us.
it has been a good change, but I think a lot of the proactive things that we're doing, the educating, the safety components that we're implementing into the departments, the job that Rachel's doing, and
Yes.
a lot of the trainings and stuff, I think it's showing up in this
Yes,
too,
and I think
you know.
there's gonna be some more opportunities come up in the next year.
Yeah.
Or maybe even, like an employee clinic and stuff like that can help, so.
Any final comments about the budget, guys?
Just one comment on what you were just saying there, with the safety aspects and how that can help us, is the fact that, KCO has Magnet and some of those other folks that can come down and help Scott and those folks, in their departments. That helps us. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's something that, wish Scott Shepherd was here, he could talk a little bit more about it, but, we've partnered, you remember when we did the, partnership with the University of Kentucky and their transportation safety program?
Right.
When they came down, they chose 2 roads, one I think was Goggins Lane and one was a 4 mile out there. And, they're doing a training, with bucket trucks. They've partnered with UK to come down and doing a training, and it's for multiple counties. So we've got multiple counties, that are be coming in and training, I think it's tomorrow, using our bucket truck safety, how to be tied off. And so, you know, those things are good for us, but also being an example to other communities, you know, which is awesome.
If you all don't have any changes that you want made to this budget, this will be the budget that is presented next Tuesday for the first reading. Then after we have first reading, we'll have to send it off to Department of Local Government, and we probably won't be able to have our second reading till the second court in June, because it takes, they're swamped with budgets right now.
And we have to have this first reading of our budget before June 1.
Yes.
All right, so for some reason, just so y'all know, for some reason we don't pass it next
Meeting.
The
next
28th.
Tuesday, the
We may have to have a
28th.
special.
We'd have to have a
We'd have a
special.
special the 29th or the 30th.
Yes.
So please do your due diligence of looking through the budget. If you do have changes, contact me, shoot an email, text, let Glenna know, so that we can look at those changes and see if we can get those implemented. You know, so.
I'd just like to thank Glenna for her outstanding job
Yeah.
of compiling all this information, and putting it together. You do an outstanding,
Thank
wonderful
you.
Appreciate you.
job of preparing this budget. It's so detailed, it's very minute.
Well, the side by side makes a big difference.
It's
And
good.
actually, our software vendor had just come up with that this last year, so kudos to them. It's helped us a lot.
Trucks start trying to dig through,
And don't
that
try,
last year.
don't try to
it's a
put
figure.
the credit off on somebody else when it's all you, Glenn.
Yeah.
I know. But we
All right.
appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, guys?
Make-
All right, next meeting is May the 28th, 2019. That'll be right here in Richmond. And again, that is next Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, May the 28th, 2019 in Richmond. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I'll call the roll. All in favor, say
Aye.
any opposed?
Judges, will the offices be closed on Monday?
Yes, they will be closed on Monday. Offices will be closed on Monday.
Memorial Day.
Meeting's adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate everybody being here and your time. I know it's time consuming, but I